It's happening. All right. So we have a lot of folks in for here, blah, for our game today, and I'm excited about it for multiple reasons. First off, I didn't think we were doing this today. I'm not gonna lie. I This is one of the bigger ones that we've taken on as far as all the technical stuff I have to do behind the scenes. I'm excited and nervous, but I didn't prepare for it today because I didn't realize Danny was going to be able to join us. So buckle in, because it's going to be a ride. I, of course, and as always, am Brian Kynes, the creator of the Tales of Ulran campaign setting. We use Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, heavily homebrewed, to tell our story. And the awesome plethora of folks that have joined me on this Sunday afternoon are here to help me write another chapter in the book. Okay? We'll do some introductions and then we'll jump into this thing. Go ahead and start off with Danny.
Hi, I'm Danny. I'm the guy whose beard is blending into his black shirt, making it look like he doesn't have a neck. And I'll be playing Bastille, the elven rogue turned celestial warlock, and I'll be running some nasty bazillion, otherwise known as lizard men, to take on the group.
Awesome. Thank you, Danny. And the hat is fantastic. It's all good. Yeah, I like it. Let's go ahead
Take it
and
off, we
keep.
start to get that blur again.
It's not bad today. It's all. We're in daylight, so it changes things a little bit. Let's go ahead and go down to Corey.
Hello, my name is Corey. I play Darius, the unsure of what we're now doing since I thought we were setting up traps, but apparently we're about to be at war. So, yay.
There it is. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I think of a description I haven't used yet.
I know you're about run out. Need to get on synonyms.com
Yeah, no kidding.
and just see if we can get something figured out.
Thesaurus.
Yeah, yeah.
So my name is Jeremy. I will be playing the part of Merc, who is a ghost of a human paladin, who is equipped with some pretty badass angelic armor called a seraphim.
I like it. Thanks for joining us, Jeremy. Never too late to join the group. Bella, go ahead, please.
Uh, so I am Bella. I play Siluan, the Maiden of Song Bard turned Avian Sky Lancer, which is cool thing. Also, like I was just thinking, is he a towering titan? Promised. I was
Nice.
trying to think of synonyms too.
Yeah,
But
the
yeah,
towering kitten.
Who is
I like
mounted
it.
on a warhorse, by the way, so he's like 10 foot tall.
Yeah, I keep forgetting. It's ridiculous. Yes.
10-foot tall towering titan.
And now we know that Bella is also the hype man.
Yeah, the hype man, definitely. Yeah, she's the hype man. And last but certainly not least, Colby, go ahead, please.
My name's Kobe. I'm the one who looks like he is commentating a game right now because of his new headset.
It's fantastic.
I play I play a barbarian slash ranger, and he's a native on these islands, and he also has a beast companion named Loki.
Awesome, dude. Thank you for joining us, man. And I know you're going through some stuff there with the signal being turned off and on you. So if we lose you, it's no sweat. We're casual about this. We'll do our thing. Okay? All right. So, as Corey had mentioned, we were exploring him visiting the temporary lair of the Ozomen in a place that they have found refuge in these terrible times. Bazillions, the water levels are rising. What kind of races, however domesticated they may be, have tried to remain, stay alive through any means necessary. And these Ozomen have made a home in what appears to be the large opening that, like, it almost looks like a comet or an asteroid has hit the actual the jungle floor. Trees are all void. It's just broken off rock, and it has made this gigantic pit, almost like an underground cave system, into a place somewhere in between the water temple, which is where we're going to be heading, and the hunting lodge that we found safe haven in for at least a night. Upon going there, and I wouldn't even so much as say as Darius is trying to be our ambassador, but he's wanting to work with the shaman there, which seems to have these sparkles of intellect and these moments of intelligence. And when everyone was talking just hours ago about ideas, what we could do if there were some neat concepts that would give us the upper hand, and we decide to take on, and try to jump into the water temple of Yota. Darius had mentioned about any kind of bombs or runes or explosions of flame that they could set in place to give us the upper hand. And the Ozaman shaman spoke up and said that they had the ability to put runes down that could be triggered. And we know that these Vasilian are weak to ice. And this is kind of a playoff of cold-blooded creatures in general, but it does affect them. It slows down their metabolisms. It has a stunning, shocking effect to them if done properly. Now, with that on the back burner, Darius and this shaman had quite a bit of a trek and discussed back and forth just some ideas. So he was trying to get some information out of him. What's the status of these corrupted, the ones that seem like they've went too far down into this cavernous temporary home and have came back with these kind of powers, these being able to hone in on gravity. They're producing onyx-like horns that seem to be growing out of them, almost like some kind of bizarre fantasy radiation like poisoning. It seems to be darkening them to a degree. It seems to be affecting them, making them somewhat hostile to a degree, but they're not feral as of yet. The things that they're getting closer to, the further down into this large crater, they get more of these abilities, and it seems to be affecting them heavier and heavier. So Darius has this lament that he has created that helps him with his own curse and condition. And he wanted to test and see if it could affect the well-being and the mannerisms of these creatures, right? And that was interesting, because not only did you find that they responded to it and enjoyed the music, but when you turned it up, like Spinal Tap, when you went to 11, you got a reaction I wasn't even sure I was going to do, and it did directly affect the build of angst. It started to kind of flame the fire of these Ozamen that have that curse upon them. It started to make them get a little bit more savage and started to make them act out a certain way. He cut it off pretty quick, but that small little window of damage has been done, right? So before we jump into the rest of everybody else waking up, and as they did in the end of the last episode, and actually making the trek towards the water temple, I want to talk to Corey a little bit here and make some decisions as to what we want to accomplish with these frost rooms that we're laying down. Obviously, because different people are able to join in and things like that, we're not going to explore that piece of that as much as I had planned. But it's hard to plan things when they change all the time. It's just part of D&D. We're adults, we have lives. So, but I would like to still flavor that and do some dice rolling and see what is accomplished by this endeavor, and also give Corey a chance to ask some questions that Darius would have had, doing some things, getting a look at some things that Darius may have had the chance to look at in this endeavor. So, having said all that, did I miss anything with that, Corey? Does that pretty much cover it pretty well?
You mentioned something about a level up last time.
I did not.
Damn. Okay, well, I tried.
Nicely done. So he's saying I did it well, right? So,
Yeah.
Let's talk about the aftermath of that song. And first off, I guess the first question would be, how much deeper do you want to delve into this place and kind of push your luck and see if you're able to get a closer look at what is actually going on deep down in this place? Or are you not interested in that, and you know that when you left there were only several hours until the morning?
Yeah.
So
But-
you've got this time frame. What would Darius like to accomplish here, sir? And I will accommodate you.
Yeah, to simplify, Darius's intentions in coming with the shaman was initially
I like it.
To test the lament to see if it has any effect on the Ozuman, and if so, what kind of effect that he can document, and then part two of that was the expectation that they were heading to the battlefield to place traps, ruins, basically set up, so that way they have they it was said that the Vasilian have a huge force coming here to the Ozuman. I see that their force is smaller. I asked the question, simply put, why the fuck are y'all afraid of them? Which hurt his pride, because he's not afraid of them. It's just they're more than Ozuman. So Darius would push more towards getting him and his people to go to the battlefield early to set up traps than he would push further into the lament, or even looking into the corruption, because the battlefield is most important. He does not want to have left his party saying, hey, we're gonna set this up for success, for them to show up and for us to have a huge crazy battle because there was no trap set up.
Okay. So, I've thought about this today. I was thinking about some other things because I didn't know what we were going to do this afternoon. I was trying to come up with another little story arc. But in between moments of that, I was thinking about the process that this is going to take and what it's going to do and how they're going to concoct this stuff and get it placed out there, and how you're going to meet the group there. Now, would you say it's fair is it fair to say that Darius's intention is to meet the party on the outskirts before they get in there to brief them on what you've done? Or do you just kind of want to wait and join them once they're on the footstep? How would you like to set that process up?
So I guess the goal would be, if we can get out there and set up the battlefield,
Okay.
I would want to then be able to meet the party prior to hitting the battlefield, to give them a heads up on the way, the safe way that I would have created, so that way they can get through safely to the temple.
Okay. That works. So, having said that, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to propose. Okay? After you're completed your song and things of that nature, I'm going to say that several Ozomen soldiers, the ones that are not corrupted and ones that aren't shamans, the one we did battle with and things like that, all of a sudden make their approach known, and there are chimes and things that are clattered and things upon the rim of this, as there seems to be excited noise about the arrival of these people coming back to give us information. The shaman would slip the ring back on his finger. Okay. And he would tell you and inform you that these were scouts. that we're giving a look to see how offset the numbers were here. You know what I'm saying? Because we know they're rampant, and so when these Ozaman soldiers come back, um, everyone goes up to the upper rim. The people that are going to be a part of this, the different soldiers, you see corrupted rushing by you, and they have got spears and stabs that have slings onto them. You see them, and they have these skulls that seem to have ropes and stuff put through the eye sockets and the empty mouth holes of things, and they wear them on their sides. And the only thing you could compare it to would be like ammunitions. That the way these people are carrying these things around is like these skulls have some kind of purpose. It's primitively done, but they seem to have belts of these lapped around their sides and are holding this like they're some kind of makeshift bombs or containers of some kind. Okay. People are taking up arms, getting ready to go, and we'll talk a little bit about the scene that happens when these scouts come back. Okay. Is there anything you particularly want to do, or do you just kind of want to walk along the side of the shaman chieftain
D&D.
so we can do this?
Yeah, like I said, the focus would be primarily on getting to the battlefield to
Okay.
set up. If there's time in between, like he noticed that he stepped on some toes with certain comments and stuff, and he doesn't want to do anything at this point but to work on bolstering the, like, amping them up, getting them ready for the fight.
Yeah. And I think, overall, to be honest, Corey, I think it's been a well done dance here. I mean, imagine how easily this could have went shitty. I think overall, the things you've accomplished and stuff like that, it's not that terrible. You know what I mean? It's not like these people are looking at you and scowling at this point, but there are a couple weird occurrences. But this overall doesn't feel like you're in a threatening situation. It's just they're so busy. You almost kind of feel overlooked to a degree. It's almost borderline insulting. You know what I mean? Amidst of what else going on. It's not so much that they're upset with what you've brought to the table. It's just they've got big fish to fry, right? So as they go up there, you have the ability to understand the languages naturally, correct?
Oh, not naturally with the spell.
Okay. If you do choose to cast that, let me know so it changes the way I do this. But the chieftain, when he speaks, this shaman, this leader of their people, you will be able to understand him. Okay. If you want more, let me know. Okay. Hey,
Corey,
what's up?
didn't you cast something at the end of last time in order for them to understand your song? Is
Yeah.
that kind of lumped in with that? Is that sort of still going on?
Yeah, so tongues last for 1 hour.
And you have to keep concentration on it, right?
No.
Okay. And they can understand you, or you can understand them.
Grants the creature. Actually, it's only one creature. The creature you touch the ability to understand any spoken language. So I done that wrong, anyways.
It's okay. I'm willing to bend things a little bit for theatrics, but I'm not a rules Nazi in that way. Because that was a neat little moment. But the music also spoke too. It didn't have to be the exact words. And even if it would have been just the chieftain, the shaman, being able to understand you, he would have hummed along with your words to create that moment either way. So the people could have understood what was being said. To a degree, it would have worked out.
Does it allow you to speak the other language too?
Yeah, so I'm reading this, and I noticed people have been playing this incorrectly. I always read it that tongues was better to do than comprehend languages, because I was always under the impression comprehend languages only let you understand, whereas tongues let you understand and them understand. But this says, so basically I could touch myself and I have the ability to understand what they say. When I speak, Oh, I did read this right. When I speak, any creature that knows a language can understand me. So I did do that right.
Oh,
'Cause
well,
I
we're
typed
good
it
then.
myself,
Okay.
and then
All right.
I can understand. Okay, yeah. It's I read it wrong. So yeah, we did it right.
Okay. So, without doing 15 different voices to do different Ozamen and stuff in all their glory, I'll stick to a couple here, just to paint a picture of what you see when the shaman leader of this group goes up towards the top rim of this, where the structure is the soundest. And there seems to be a crevice-like area, a flattened out spot of rock that is a approach that goes in to where all this patchwork of planks and vines and shit seems to take hold. Okay, and in this area, let's call it the foyer of the crater, if you will. Okay, in that area where there's several different things carved out and depicted on the rock here. Actually, roll me a perception check, Corey.
Rolling. Keep those low rolls coming. 9.
Okay, you see them referencing and moving different pieces around as if they've made like a makeshift diagram of the temple out of different stones and paint and stuff on this flattened surface. But it is very abstract to you with a 9. It would take some looking at it to understand the way they're seeing this. But you can tell that's what they're moving around. This is a battle strategy that they have, and it is in a large 15 by 15 foot square of this flattened out rock where they have placed different things and whatnot. It's very interesting looking. It's like a mix between primitive art and a rock garden. And it's nice to see that they have this kind of function. You might be a little bit relieved by that. As the soldiers all come over and they put their lower arms down, fists heavy. It's almost like when you see two samurai guys getting ready to go. There's a ceremony that these guys go through to introduce themselves and give homage to each other. And as they go like that, then they sit down their staves with the top arms and bow. And when the shaman beside you kind of gives them a grunt and raises his arms, they push themselves back up again and stand like sentinels with these long stabs to their sides. The younger, stronger one of the four of these speaks up, and you recognize him because he has some pink scars and stuff on his underbelly where he's been healed. This is the one that you unleashed on during that competition, that test of might. You recognize some of these people now as those ones he faithfully brought with him to compete with you guys. Okay? And he looks at him, and he goes up and he says, and what have you seen from the temple? The young one looks at him and says, they hide in fear. There should be many of their signs, feeding bones, piles of corpses. But they hide in fear as the Quetzalcoatl soars. Their fear will be our advantage. He looks over to the other ones and he says, is this true? Are their numbers depleted because of the menace of the skies coming back? As he looks across, the other three soldiers just kind of nod, and a louder voice kind of speaks up from the back, and it doesn't walk past you, but you can hear the heavy footsteps that almost sound a little bit harder than they should, almost kind of rock-like. You know what I mean? You can't help but think this is one of the corrupted. And he says, then why are we wasting time? If they sleep, they can be killed. If a heart needs rest, a heart can stop. We should go now. Wait for the mortals to come sort out and make bodies of their own. As he says this, it's very hyper-aggressive compared to the conversations that the other ones are having. Darius. If you want to interject at any time, you are more than welcome to. I'm just going to roll through this, okay? Okay. So, with that, the shaman looks past you and catches your eye for a minute, and you can see a little bit of that soft, those hazed over, almost blind-looking old eyes from this shaman. There seems to be a stillness come across him as new crevices form, and you can see him jut his jaw out, and you can see the tusks of partially yellowed teeth. And he turns around, and you almost are like, what's coming? You get this sensation in the ball of your pit, the pit of your in the ball of the pit of your stomach. And as he turns over and looks at him, he kind of rah, and just kind of yells at him like you see apes yell at each other. It is horribly intimidating to see them take this approach to each other. And when he barks off at that large one that come up here and was piping up a little bit too much, I need to roll something real quick. That's outstanding. And a natural 18 for old dude. Let's see how the young one does here. 13. I didn't know if it's a 13 or 18. I couldn't tell. It seems to stifle this corrupted Ozaman that was over your right-hand side, Corey. You could literally feel the breath off of him as he was shouting this stuff past your shoulder into the group. But the shaman was able to get him to know his place. And he looks at the other ones and he goes, "We wait for the Atlati. They are the only ones that can unlock the temple. And we know this, for it is built by mortal hands." With that, the ones around seem to nod in agreement to this idea. The shaman looks over to you and says, "Would you join us in a ritual? We need to make the paint and the materials for the runes. And I could use your help with this." He's asking Darius this. What are you saying?
So quick thing, while they were, going back and forth, I know with the perception check, I didn't see like hardcore. Would I have gotten at least a gist of the battle map in the sense of the temple front, and then where it seems like maybe they have placed the Vasilian coming from? Like I want to know where the temple front is, and
you can tell. You can tell where the temple front was. You could not tell what pieces represented what people with a 9.
Okay. That's what I want to make sure.
Yeah, but you could tell where the front was, and you could see there were things there that were depicting. There were placement markers on there that looked different. You just can't tell what was what with that roll.
Right. So, I would be edging closer without like pushing anyone out of the way or anything. But when he says that to me,
okay,
I would be honored to assist in the ritual. I do have a question, and I look back at the younger Ozaman,
the warrior
yeah. Basically, I wanted to level set with him that I want to give off this vibe of like I don't have. I want to give the body language of what I'm about to say, which is I agree that getting rid of them in their sleep might be beneficial, but we have thought of another plan, setting traps, allow them to think that they have the upper hand. But you mentioned that they may be fearing the Quetzalcoatl. Is it flying over the temple?
Some of them kind of look at each other as if they're ashamed to kind of admit what they're getting ready to say. There's this collective look, like a bunch of dudes that got their ass whipped at a bar last night, and their parents are like, "So, how'd it go?" They're having this kind of, you going to tell him? I don't know, I'm going to tell him. They're having that moment. And in that, they all look at each other, and that one soldier one looks at you and says, this time draws near. He has been soaring more than usual. He nods his head with that remark. He says, if it were not for the cloud-filled skies, the blessings of Baka, we would not be safe here, even in this moment. And he almost said fear, but he stopped himself. And when he almost said that fear, you could hear that shaman taking a deep breath, like a, So what you're getting from that is, yeah, this thing is soaring around. It's starting to get hyper. It may think its eggs are at risk. It could think that there's something strange going on the island. The volcano may be getting more active. But the Quetzalcoatl has been soaring over, and it does have these Vizillion, in more of a fearful state, and they're kind of staying a little bit more obscured. Plus, on the other side of that, too, you've got to think they only believe that there's a handful of these Atleti warriors left, which is to their detriment. You know what I mean? We took care of the ones that were going to be able to make it back to the pack and give them the news and report to them. So, these would be things on Darius's mind. I'm just pointing out some past episode shit for you. Okay?
Yeah, still trap. So when he says that,
all day. Ron, go ahead.
Out of curiosity, are we inside a hut? Is it like, are there leaves and grass around?
No, there are not. This is all there. Everything here has been stripped of anything green for several hundred yards until you get to the edge of the actual jungle itself again, where whatever made this impact and made this crater scorched this earth. And it's been this way for a long, long time, like maybe thousands of years. Okay, that this impact has been here. This isn't something that was created by the Terrachua or the Tarrasque. This is something that happened to these lands before that. And you are on this cutout like slab of stone that they have drawn up this kind of makeshift battle plan on. It's almost like a ceremonial entranceway from the actual scorched earth into it, like an opening that leads to all this intra-workings of ladders and bridges and shit that they've constructed from pieces of the jungle. So there's no grass around.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna hold. I have an idea, but
okay.
I gotta wait till I see the battlefield.
Okay.
How do we know that this Quetzalcoatl will not attack? Is the temple hidden by the canopy, or is it open?
The shaman looks to them and he says, Rilson, Tando, were you able to make out the doors? Were they open? They both look at each other and they kind of shake their head and they say, what we found were broken pieces with no mortal grasp. Doors were laid open. Some lay shattered in stone pieces. They have no respect for Baka or the temple. It is more just a place close to the sun so they can gain power. We dared not go any further, as to lower our chances in the upcoming battle. That'd be the reply to that. And go ahead.
Like as he's saying that, I I just want to clarify what I'm asking. The outside of the temple, before going into the doors. It's good to know that these Vasilian desecrate. Well, it's not good to know, but I'm glad to know the information about them and their desecration. It gives me more reason to put them out of this land. But what I'm trying to, and I'll walk directly over to the map thing now.
As you do, the shaman follows you. You can hear the clanking of that staff on the ground behind you as you make your way over to it, and some of the soldiers move to the sides. As you go that way and you look around, you can see the eyes kind of glow in the background of some of the corrupted ones that are standing back in the shadows a little bit more. They seem to have some kind of energy every once in a while that makes their eyes kind of radiate a color from the depths, as some of them stand back away from the actual normal moonlight, as it seems like maybe even light affects them a little bit at this point, even that of the moon, that or maybe just the shame of being right out showing what has happened to them, right? And as you move to the map, go ahead, and the shaman is standing beside you.
So I'll put my hand and point at the door. If this is the entrance to the temple, because you said I know that much at least. And I'll put my hand kind of like horizontal to the battlefield. And is this trees or is it open? Can you see the stars? Can you see the sun?
Okay. So with that, let's go ahead and I'm not. This is just as fun as anything for me. And I hope everyone's enjoying this kind of trek into this too. We'll get to everyone, I swear we will. For a bit of expedience, we're going to say this. Okay, I'm going to roll some rolls here. And I'm going to say he is able to explain to you what some of these markers mean. He's going to help you through this. Also, as he's doing that, you're going to see that some of these other soldiers have brought back bundles of what look to be the remains of these Vasilian. And as they do, some other ones step up with these granite bowls and mashing pieces, and they start taking the bones and refining them down into a powder as they sit around this place and rock and hum. And there seems to be a song that starts up of some kind, like there's some kind of ritual that these creatures are doing as they hold the bowl like this, the two bottom arms, and the two top arms are got these large I don't know what, masher, because I'm creative.
Mortar and pestle or whatever.
Yeah, and they're just getting on these bones and throwing pieces in there, and it's brutal sounding, right? Let me do some rolls here real quick and see how this does. And this will give me a chance to introduce something. I have a dice roller. If you guys will check out the battle map, bam, it's a dice roller. Let's have a little bit of fun with it. So
I want to clarify something real quick, because
please do clarify some butter.
Expedite. So while out of character, I'd be okay like knowing the battlefield stuff. We can always play that in as the battlefield happens, where it's like, hey, you know this or that as it is needed. All I care about right now is the battlefield open to the air, aka do we have to also be fearful of the Quetzalcoatl, or just the Vasilian?
Just about. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, once they said that the Vasilian are fearful of the Quetzalcoatl, then Darius is like, well, shit, is it going to be part of?
Yeah, maybe they know something. Yeah, right. Yeah, I get you. Just about 7-8 minutes ago, I have something that's going to fulfill both needs. Okay, and it has to do with this map. Okay, so I think this will work, make everyone satisfied with what we want to accomplish, and move it forward at the same time. But like I say, it's up to you guys and your level of happiness. So I'm going to go ahead and roll here and see. D20 is over here. It's a natural 19. Okay, so if a natural 19 and bonuses, he is going to be a very helpful guide in this endeavor. So, you can see that everything as far as cover and camouflage and things of that nature are pushed pretty far back from this temple. Okay, at least 25 to 30 yards. But the temple itself almost seems to be, from what they're showing on this map, seems to be somewhat pyramid in its shape. It seems to be layers that are up, and then he also taps the staff down and explains that they have no idea how deep it goes as it runs into underground waterways. But the main thing that it does, and this doesn't make a lot of sense to you, but he sticks by it, and you have a feeling that this is just a little bit of the lost in translation from Ozomen to a sophisticated culture, or so we think we are, right? They talk about the actual temple itself is able to speak to Baka, the earth god. And then Baka is able to pull back these, I guess the way they make them sound like, are these enormous like gates or like movable dams, and are able to either let the water in or stop the flow of water. And if the ceremony is done correctly and Baka is appeased by the way people worship him at this place, that the water can be ceased and got back under control. Sounds ridiculous, but you know there's a bit of truth to everything. These people aren't stupid. So really at that point you can ask a little bit more, but that's up for your own interpretation, really. You know things about Brahmas and stuff that these people could never comprehend. So you just have to fill in the gaps however Darius would like. You know what I'm saying? There would be little to no cover for anybody that were around that place from an avian predator. What they plan on doing here is, as they're starting this ceremony and they're mashing up these bones into these granite bowls and things of that nature, the shaman goes over and he's placing his staff, and he is sitting the staff down hard onto this map, and he looks at you. And what we're going to do here is he's looking for you to give him advice as to where you think these runes should be placed. He's going to map it out and possibly send someone out to lay these in place before we get there. This concoction that they're making out of these Vasilian ashes, they're making a spell component somehow. Okay? That seems to add to this frost rune shit that we've been talking about. So I'll let you ask some questions now in character or out of character, whatever you need, to go ahead and make this make sense to you as best as it can.
These ruins, these traps, will they only be affected by the cold-bloodedness of the lizard Vasilians, or if anyone steps on them, will they?
In his words, that you roll an Arcana check.
Six.
He makes it sound as if their ashes being put into that will make these runes hurt the Vasilian. But with a 6, that's about the best you're able to discern from what he's talking about. He speaks in metaphors that for this to actually know who the enemy is, it has to have part of the enemy in the ingredients and stuff like that. And that makes sense on some basic arcane level to you. But with a 6, it's nothing you're doing as a hobby. You know what I'm saying?
Right. The fun part's going to be when when the bird lady steps on it, we find out birds are linked to lizards. Um,
Yeah. Then we there's the rabbit hole. There it is.
Welcome to Jurassic.
It had a little piece of DNA.
Yep.
We was able to take that piece of DNA and make bazillions out of bird people. Go ahead, man.
So, I mean, looking at the battlefield, I'm kind of like, I'm pointing away from the temple. Where do you think the Vasilian will attack from? Do you have any information on where they're camping at, where their main...
Okay. So, yeah. He nods and he takes the staff and he runs it kind of harshly through the side and he knocks over some of the things that are supposed to be the symbolic outer edge of this thing. And he knocks it over to the side and off of the actual map for a little bit. It takes about 3 big steps. And he's about 13 foot away from you. And he's out there and he puts a staff into the ground. I'm trying to decide how I'd explain it in his words. When the day comes and the sun is high, they go to the temple to gain strength. When the night falls, they go to the entrance of waterway like caves, riddled throughout the area. This is why the temple was built where it was initially. He says, but they dare not seek its depths or go too close to the underbelly of the sacred shrine to Baka, for it is for mortals only. So, that's what you get from that. Discern from that how you will, interpret that how you will, but that's pretty much how he would put it to you.
So, there are many entrances into the temple through the waterways.
He looks at the others. Not for the Ozaman. For mortals, there is one clear path. He looks at you squinting, wondering what you're thinking about.
I want to clarify out of character.
Uh-huh.
It sounded like you said that they come to the temple through the waterways to go into the temple. Did I hear that wrong?
Yep. There are many entrances to these underground waterways, the caves, that are different holes throughout, but they're flooded and they're full of water. Now, when they're full of water, if you were able to swim underwater for several hundred yards, you may be able to come up in random locations underneath the temple and trace that water in. You could try it. Absolutely. There's nothing you can't try.
No, which the Vasilian can do.
They could do if they didn't fear the actual temple itself.
Okay, so what he's saying is that they won't go in that deep.
Right.
Okay.
There seems to be, and he's not real been, if you want to ask, you may, but he's not been real specific. And he talks about it's only somewhere where Atlanti and the mortals would dwell. He doesn't even talk about he wants, as an Ozaman, he doesn't even make it sound like he would want to go inside of there. There must be some kind of reason, but now that question's starting to come up in Darius's head, as it should.
Yeah. As I'm like looking at the battlefield, I put my hand like kind of in the center, like in front of the temple.
Mm-hmm.
If you were hunting for food, you would have knowledge of, and I kind of move my hand over the battlefield, as to
Okay.
where your prey will come in and where your prey will leave. So you know where, and I put my finger right in the middle of the battlefield, where you set your traps. Where will the Vasilian come from?
He thinks about it for a long moment and he looks. And he shows you an entranceway on the far eastern side and the far western side of the actual temple itself. It seems that there are 4 main entranceways to this thing. As a pyramid-shaped structure, there's 4 large sets of stairs that go up and are staggered, one in the middle of each base wall, north, south, east, and west. He says the southern one seems to be one that is always guarded. That's the main one they use when they come up there and spread out during the day. The one to the east and the west are directly across from where there are cave structures or places that they sleep. So it would be this eastern and western stairway or stairwell that leads up to the temple that he believes they would come in from. But he says, like the Ozaman, they are creatures of these lands. There is hardly a wall that they cannot scale. They slither upon the stone of this place in direct defiance of Baka's wishes. But the most central route would be the eastern and western stairwells that lead in from the base.
You said there's a few of the super corrupted in the room, right? Or in the area?
Yeah, there was that one that's still standing back here behind you, silenced by this alpha move. And then there was about 3 or 4 that were in the background, just kind of out of the moonlight and listening from a distance. Yeah.
Which, and I'll look at are there like little tokens on the battlefield of or is it like drawings to mark who's who?
Tokens.
Okay. Which of these? And I'll point at the corrupted.
Okay.
I want to know what token the corrupted are.
As that happens, the one walks up. And when you say that, you can see some of the eyes of the ones kind of dim a little bit, kind of frown as if they know they're being spoken about. It's so weird for them to be used to hearing this kind of conversation. You've got to understand, this is a very unique situation. It's pretty neat. I'm getting a pretty decent visual. It's pretty neat. It's fun. And when it comes over and looks, when he holds his hand out and points down past your shoulder with this large, like black-skinned hand and looks and points, you actually, it really, if you'd have rolled better, you would have known. It seems obvious once he does, but there are pieces of black onyx rock that seem to symbolize places where they plan on sitting and going into. What's very interesting is when he moves his hand over and does that, the rocks shake from a distance, as if he's using some kind of force ability to move something away from him, like some kind of telekinesis or something like that.
All right. How? So here's because I don't want to take up too much time.
Okay.
But
this is all. I'm cool with it though. We're going to get there. We're going to have our fun. But this is very good setting stuff. I like seeing at least this much of this part of this. I appreciate you wanting to move it though. That's cool. Go ahead, bud.
So Darius is good at chess. Like he is proficient at dragon ante or whatever you would call it in your world.
Yeah, I like it.
So you see him literally scoop up all the pieces. And what I want to do is I want to place, depending on how many of them are, I want to strategically place the corrupted right in front of the entrances, within 20, 30 feet. The entrances that he marked would be the 3 main entrances that they would come through.
Okay, yeah.
And then I want to put any of the littler ones that are just the standard Ozumen Spread them out again evenly between those three, except for just a few extra in the main center. And then I'm gonna take like a token of something out of like my pocket, like something that I would have that would. This is me. And
Okay.
I place it where I'm gonna be more in the center, and I'll point at both the sides. They are powerful. They can suck in to bring the battle to them. Place the ruins strategically around them. Bring the Vasilian to them. Then the Vasilian will hit those traps immediately, and you can attack. You can take as many out as possible right then. And then I go back to the middle. We will be here. I will work to bolster your men. I will aid them, make them stronger, feel more powerful. Here we place, and I'll kind of point my finger, kind of almost like a chessboard, out in a couple spots, kind of checkerboard it out, strategically out, so that some will get hit and be stopped, while others we can focus fire on.
Okay.
The more that we get not coming in our direction, the easier it will be to handle. And then from there, I place myself like almost in the middle of the front part of the battlefield.
Yeah.
I will be here alone. When I change, I cannot control the beast inside me, and I will unleash it upon whatever stands in my way, so your people will stand back and leave me to my bloodlust.
Roll a persuasion check of advantage, because that's clever, using the gravity abilities to suck them into the runes and things like that, and I want to reward you for that. So roll that with advantage. Tell me what you get.
30. 18 on the die.
That's really cool. That's really cool. That's going to be nice if it works.
Hey, strategies don't always work, but it sounds good.
Yeah, but that's something. That's neat. So, absolutely. So, through doing that, and you're talking about this, the shaman goes through and he moves stuff and centers it up where you've kind of placed it up there, and he makes sure that each one of these corrupted has at least 2 soldiers by it, on the eastern side, on the western side, and then on the middle. And there, when there were a spot where he was going to send 2 more corrupted up the sides, he pushes them down to the second layer, and he pushes stuff back, and he takes that 1 token of you, and he looks at it for a minute, and he sits it back down in that spot, moving some of those other characters back away from where you're wanting to be. Okay? So, on that moment, he looks at you and he kind of nods. And as that happens, some of the soldiers start like a chant. Like when he sits that back down, it's a moment that sparks excitement in them. And you're hearing, whoa! And you're seeing the stuff go up, and you're hearing this kind of celebration start up. And as the bones are being crushed into these bowls, you would see some of these other Ozaman females coming out with clay pots, and they are collecting the ashes into them and things of this nature. You see another Ozaman shaman, and you didn't even realize there was more than one of them, but it seems like there are. This one is taller, skinnier, but close to the same age, has the same hazed over eyes. Okay, but this one has these long dreadlocks that have grown out of it, and weaves that have tusk-like things that drag the ground around it. It's very strange. The only thing I can think of that makes me, it's almost like a multi-edged flail, that has all these long braids hanging off of its neck and around its shoulder hair and stuff like that, that have these bones that kind of drag the ground on this rough stone and kind of make like this wind chime kind of sound behind a creature. And its staff particularly seems to have holes and stuff in it, almost like it's some kind of large wind instrument / staff that it uses when it walks up. And when it takes that, it collects the bowls up, all 4 of these bowls or these vases that are filled with this powder with each one of its hands. And this is kind of artistically kind of storing them and putting them underneath arms and putting them in the pouches. He looks at the other one, the one that's been with you for the most time here, Darius. He says, I will travel out with the others. We will prepare. When you come, we'll be ready. Puts a hand on the shoulder of the other one, and both of them do a nod, and he looks over to you, and he kind of looks you up and down for just a moment, and he kind of gives you a knowing nod, and when he does, he taps the staff 3 times on this stone out here in front of you guys, and 3 of those soldiers, excluding the one that had its belly all cut up, that stays by the shaman with you at all times. But the other soldiers, these scouts that came out, go with him right now. And they make their way. And they leave in the night. And they're making their way there ahead of us. They're going to try to go there and get these things painted out. And they take off with haste. Okay? Go ahead.
I would like to... how many are leaving?
There will be the 3 of them, and then the 1 shaman, total 4.
3 of them. So 4. And are we... So this is before we do our long rest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll do a long rest. I just want to make sure I have magic to do this.
Yep.
I'd like to, before they leave, I would like to cast Aid on them.
Okay, tell me what that looks like and what it does for them.
Yeah, so basically, as they go to leave, wait, one second. I'll pull my lute out, and I'll start to play a very upbeat kind of harmony. In the song, it's basically has something to do with keeping your keeping your friends closer. I mean, your friends close, but your enemies closer, and preparing for battle. And they'll feel bolstered so basically Aid bolsters allies with toughness and resolve. Choose up to 3 creatures in range. Each creature's hit point maximum and current maximum is 5 for 8 hours. However, I'm casting at a level 4, so they'll get 15. So that those 3 that are protecting the shaman will be plus 15 HP for the next 8 hours. Just because I don't know if there's going to be Vasilian there, so I'd like to prepare them for being safe.
I like it, man. I like it. I'm taking a little note here. All right.
And then there's a shaman that's going to go out and do casting, right?
Seems so. With that component of those Vasilian to make that be the trigger effect in it, seems like the shaman is the one that's going out to perform and put these runes down. Yes.
I'll put my lute behind me, and this is concentration. Never mind. I forgot this is concentration. I'll just put a hand on him and
Don't make it awkward. You better say something.
I touch him slightly. I don't know what's out there, but your men, and I kind of look over his shoulder at them. I've helped them feel better. I'll see you on the battlefield. I was going to enhance ability and give him Owl's wisdom, which is advantage on wisdom checks. But it's only 1 hour concentration.
When you place your hand and you see the trinkets and things that this individual has on him, it would not surprise you, Darius, if this is the most heavily clad and magical items, although them may be primitive, some may be not even understood by him, that you have ever seen an individual air-breathing mammal in your life. He is literally a walking flea market. Ozaman relics and totems and shrines and pieces of stuff. You know, right when you were thinking about doing that and casting this stuff, that, and the other, I would say, you know, in game, you'd almost hold back because you're like, oh, you probably got that covered. There's probably something there that's got that taken care of. So, fear not, sir. He's got the baggage. He's got the Boy Scout badges to prove it. He's good. I'd like to just theatrically say, at that point, do you feel pretty satisfied in having that scene and that part and that role to play in this?
Yeah, I got something else to do, but I gotta wait till after the battle because I didn't realize there were no leaves here. I was gonna teach them how to make coverage to cover themselves from.
Oh, right on, right on. Yeah, I get it. That'd be funny because if you were trying to teach Ozaman how to hide under leaves, they'd probably just look at you like there was something wrong with you, because they're like, we live here, bud. It's all, I get it. So, yeah, you're going to have them going out there with like umbrellas made out of leaves, and they think it's going to make them safe. And they're all going to die. It's going to be like the Deadpool movie, yeah. This thing, you know what I mean? They're all just jumping out of the airplane, like, we got this. So, I would like to say, in those bowls, they do something that's fairly primitive and may gross you out a little bit, but before they wash them, there is still a little bit of that powder that hasn't been put into those vials and stuff yet. And when they go through, they're mixing, and they've got some kind of hot mixture of berries and clove and some kind of very fragrant kind of spiced berry liquid. Almost like a, not quite a wine. It's almost like the swamp water of wine. You know what I mean? And they're going through and they're pouring this. You see pieces of banana peel and banana leaves and shit like that. And they're pouring it into these stone bowls that they were crushing all these bazillion bones up with. There's parts of that still in there. And they're pouring this liquid on top of that, and they are passing those around ceremoniously to a lot of the different warriors and stuff that are going to be going out on this venture the next day. As they're all sitting there and stuff like that, and the shaman takes one, and when they're going around, they go to hand the one to you, sir. What are you doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, Darius has been many places in his life, and has seen some weird rituals, especially when it deals with drugs and in drug dens and whatnot.
Didn't know that. It's cool though. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta think about it. Like,
I know. I mean, yeah.
As
The
a
city of
bard,
Ravens
like-
is no nice place. Yeah, I know, man.
yeah. So, but I imagine, like, so as to not offend them, like he wouldn't guzzle it, but he would, take a little sip.
Constitution check, please.
Oh, this is the one time I would be like, I'll be okay. It's a 21, 22.
22 is really good.
Yeah, 19 on the die.
It could be sweeter, right? And you kind of filter through your teeth so you can drink what's there, because you can tell that grittiness is not a problem for these people. But it's interesting that the tropical flavors of it do push through, and with your sophisticated palate, you can understand why this would be something acceptable. And I want you to write this down on your character sheet, that you have a plus 1d4 to any saving throws versus the poison or acid of the zillions for the next 24 hours. And you can use that 1d4 times. So go ahead and roll me a 1d4 and tell me what you get.
4. No, I'm just kidding.
4! Look out for the golf ball.
Danny, can you roll that for me?
Right?
1. I got a 1.
Okay. But you do get that once. So keep that in your back pocket, okay? And that's from drinking this mixture down that had the parts of the Vizillion actually in it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I drink some more. I take with. No, I'm just kidding.
He's just clanking with
I
stone
collect it
vases
all.
and shit. Yeah. It's like, shit's good. It's like total bowl hooch in prison. It's good stuff. I like it. So, having said all that, I think we're good to go ahead and continue with the other folks back at the other place. So I think that went well. I like that. That gives it a nice bit of flavor, accomplishes what we wanted to. I'm a fan. Okay? So, moving on with the rest of this. Okay. So, next morning, people are waking up. People are doing their thing. I remember Danny stirring Silouan awake. I remember Merc waking up in Brahmas, Killtusk going and doing his thing. So we can begin. It is still very dark outside. So I want everyone to kind of keep in mind that there's this sensation, and you know what it's like. You know what it's like the first day back to school and it's still dark outside before the bus comes when you're a kid, and you know what it's like when you get asked to work a third shift when you're not used to doing it. That weird feeling that comes over you that, you know, you've had your long rest, but I want everyone to keep in mind too that this is like 3:30, 4 a.m. Although it is warmer than what we're used to from back home, there is still a decent chill in the air. And there is a 9 on the rain factor. It's coming down pretty good in gusts that are very windy. Okay? So fast moving clouds that let bright hits of moonlight hit the canopy and tickle through the trees, which make very strange patterns upon the riverbanks and things of that nature. It's eerie. And you guys are out in this, getting ready to go forward. So let's talk about marching order or anything else that you guys would like to accomplish before we head out doing this. Okay? So long rest for everybody. So that's good news, right? Okay, thanks to Jeremy, because we weren't going to get it, but Jeremy pulled it in clutch and made that happen. Silouan, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot a little bit, remind me what exactly she was doing there. You were talking to Rowdy, and you were going through that whole thing, I remember. You were seeing the deep cuts that were on his head from where he had fought those displacer beasts, and you had that memory. Correct? Okay.
That was right after coming out of Brahmas, and then I went inside to
Then
the lodge,
rested.
did some stuff there, rested, popped out.
Okay.
Bass was doing the very obvious stretching while I talked to
That's what it was.
Merc to determine kind of where Merc was going to be at and then where Silouan was going to be at.
And then he summoned the horse,
Mm-hmm.
which was awesome. And remind me of the horse's name again, Jeremy.
Harthorn.
Spell that.
Harthorne.
Harthorn. Okay. I'll try to remember that the best I can. Okay, bud. So would you and Silouan both be riding on Harthorn? Is that marching
The idea
order?
I had in my mind.
Okay, so I don't want to suggest things. I want you guys to kind of tell me. So here's what we have. We have Bastille and Valdera. Okay, and they're going to be looking for a ride as they don't have anything of their own. Danny, Bastille's connection has been tethered, and you haven't heard any word from your friend for quite a while now. Okay. Would you like to try again in this moment before we go?
Yeah, he will.
Okay. So go ahead and describe to me what that's like and what you say.
He'd actually walk away to a quieter place, and he bows his head, and what he hasn't done in a while is because he doesn't have the magical feather anymore because he gave that back to him. But I would venture to say that he's probably picked up one of his feathers at some point or another, and he rubs that between his fingers and closes his eyes and says his name. He says Steelbeak arrows. Whether you can come or not, at least let me know you're still there.
Roll a persuasion.
$14.
You hear a voice in your head, but it's not the one you think it is. It's someone that you've not talked to for quite a while, and it startles you, but also might kind of make you happy. You hear the voice of Rivden. It would seem that Steelbeak has made it home. Okay? And what you hear is, he is mending well. Bastille. He came to us no more than a day ago. Tattered, beaten, and torn. He truly has the heart of a warrior. He says to you, he goes, how does Selwyn fare? Is she safe?
Let him know he saved us all.
What else you say?
And Silhouette is growing, doing well. She's taking on a new leaf on life. Lease, not leaf.
I guess you meant leaf blower.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you guys hear that? Yeah, I'm loving it. What are we mixing, guys?
Margaritas.
Are we making cookies upstairs?
Pina coladas?
Oh, it's nothing professional here. Yeah, please knock that off. Okay. So, with all that,
Oh, it was a vacuum.
yeah, they're mixing something up there. They're cooking something. It's hard telling. Sound like a vacuum, doesn't it? In that moment, there's no reply back. And you've got to think this is some kind of spell that you've seen people do before to some degree. But it's an interesting thing that's where Eros took himself. And you wonder how badly the encounter with the Quetzalcoatl had to be between him and Eros. And the actual speed of the creature. You've never known anything to fly in the sky and catch Eros, ever.
The other thing that's got me concerned is it's almost like he's becoming mortal again by being around me.
That's an observation. You did give him his freedom.
Well, that leaves it up to his choice what to do with it.
Yeah, the connection to life, from that place. That's an interesting gift to give something. And with the avians, who knows what's going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
The avian lancers are connected to their steeds. There is a process, there is a bond, there is a ritual. So it's interesting. So that's that scene. You hear Valdera's bootsteps coming up to you.
Bass turns around, just turns on his heel and looks at her, but she could probably tell he's feeling a little better just by how quick he turns.
She looks at you and kind of grins. She goes, pick your poison. She looks around. She's over there. She's eyeballing Rowdy, which is nose deep in a mud puddle at the moment. And as soon as he looks up, he kind of, and it flips mud, like in between you and Valdera. She gets a little bit on her boot. She's kind of like, right? And then looks back over, and Loki is over there, and now the axe beak seems to be up and moving around a little bit as the two seem to be pulling back and forth on some kind of piece of meat that has the faint signs of hair to it over who's going to get the bigger piece of it as the two are just kind of pulling back and forth. So Loki and the axe beak are over there fighting over some scrap of something. You would see the large warhorse of that Merc has brought into being. And then you would see Karsu walk up, and as she puts her hand on her chest and she gives a long nod to Baraxel, Baraxel pulls up the hood and pulls the jaguar eyes of the mask over top of himself. Then he wild shapes into one of those large creatures and kneels down as Karsu mounts him. And the long tentacles that come out as whiskers come back animated and lay on top of her shoulders as she gently takes her fingers and holds on to them as if they're, So, who's going where and doing what? Go ahead.
Bass looks over. He goes, well, 2 legs, 4. That one's less likely to fall. And that's way up.
Right, that's fair. That's a fair assumption. By the way, I just want to let everybody know the name that I have came up with for these large jaguar version of displacer beasts, and you guys might want to write this down. They are called the Tecari, Tecuari, and that's what these large jaguar versions of like displacer beasts are called. They're damn near 9.5 foot long from nose to mid-tail, and they stand pretty tall. They are large cat-like creatures, and they are called the Tecari. Okay?
That would be a beast to ride.
Go ahead. Kill Tusk, what are you doing?
I would say I will be making sure my bow and arrows are in working order and making sure at least the arrow tips are sharp. And then probably mounting up Loki.
Okay. So in that moment, when you do that, go ahead and roll me an animal handling check. I just want to see how your relations are getting ready to go with him and how much you can tell.
$14.
Okay, 14. Good deal. Loki is doing his diligence, but it seems like his focus is somewhere else. It's kind of a strange sensation that you're getting from Loki. The axe beak stands by the front door once you've started putting things. And you can tell Loki kind of wants to play and stay around with his friend that has been hurt down and lame for some time now, but is doing what he knows he must do. As the axe beak is on the front porch of this place, Rursi comes back out with a couple bags and supplies, some pouches of some things, and she hands off some goods to Karsu. And they seem to have a quiet, hushed conversation about her readiness, and she puts her hand on her head, and she kisses the young girl on her forehead, and pulls the strap of the pouches and things she's given her up on her shoulder more tightly. And she goes through and she rubs her hand down the back of Braxel and down the tail of the large creature as it turns, and you can hear a low grumble underneath of its voice of consent. And she walks away And then she holds her hand out. And she whispers a couple words, and that large tropical bird that usually stays with her, she raises her arm up and it flies off and it goes up into the air over top of the warhorse, circles around and lands on the shoulder of Silouan. And as it does, the wind from the wings of this thing is somewhat significant. And when it lands on your shoulder, this is a bird that is, it's not huge, but it's like a big ass parrot. And it's got this long, like toucan kind of like beak with these long rainbow colored feathers that are of red, blues, and yellows and stuff that go down the back of it. It's a mixture of like a very colorful parrot and a toucan. And it has 3 or 4 different white feathers that come out of a tuft on the middle of its head with yellow on their tips that kind of come out and curve. Almost like one of those white, begins with a C. I can't think of the kind of bird that it is. But they have those white kind of bent feathers that come out of the top.
Cockatiel.
Yeah, I think that's it. And it sits there and looks on to your shoulder with no explanation. Mercy just gives a longing look, a very knowing look to you. And says to the distance, she goes, she chooses to do what she wants to do. I am not her master. Bring her back to me safely. And she will watch over you. She turns and goes back into the lodge. Okay? Just 1 minute. With that, Kiltusk, you're riding Loki, correct? You two are riding the Warhorse. I'm reading something real quick. Sorry, guys. Okay. The answer is yes, Mr. McGuffey. It's you. Do your thing, sir. I believe we're set to head that direction. Is there anything you guys can think of that we have not covered in this? The only thing is where Celine is going to ride. We still don't know. Oh, yeah, we still don't know what Bastille and Valdera are going to do. Valdera is going to go over to Shakoma and suggest that we be allowed to ride with Rowdy, if that would be permissible. She would simply give a powerful nod and hold her arm down to help her up on the back of Rowdy. Rowdy could handle a lot. What is it you're saying, Bastille?
I nod and walk over as well and ask if I could ride with her as well.
She looks down at you for a minute, and Valdera comically kind of looks up and whispers something to her, and you can't hear what it is, but Shakoma actually smiles, like this big, showing her teeth kind of smile, and kind of gasps and stuff, and nods so you can come up, and Valdera just kind of looks at you and holds her arm out. You have no idea what was just said, but it had to be degrading to some degree.
Oh. How high up is it?
The back of him
Mm-hmm.
is every bit of about 9.5 foot up. The very top hunch of him. He is a large creature.
You know what? He just reaches up and takes her hand.
Okay. And as you do, she pulls you up onto the side, and you're taking up the rear end of Rowdy. There's even room for a fourth if there needed to be up here. This is a battle mount that is made, and I've described this in several of the episodes, of large tusks that run along the side. Like, you know how rednecks have those big old step-up bars on the side of their trucks? Rowdy's are made out of elephant tusks, man. He's the real deal. And he's got really cool battle armor on, made of different parts of dinosaur bone and scale, and it's a cool looking setup. So, with that, I think that's everybody, and we're ready to head out. Is there any last-minute preparations everybody wants to make before we head that direction?
So the bird you said is hanging out on Sylvan's shoulder?
It is, yes.
What's its name?
I don't know that we even actually said what the name of the bird was, did we?
Don't think so.
Yeah,
I think
I
it
don't
was
know.
just sort of like the bird is there, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't know that you know a name. Did you want to ask somebody or say something?
I guess she already went inside, right?
She did, which
So I
was kind of
guess-
comical. Yeah.
So it's like, all right. So it's like, hey, oh wait, Braxel's a big, the cat displacer beast thing now.
Yeah.
So,
Those things. Yes.
so who's writing? So the name of the character writing Braxel.
That is Karsu, the Scion.
Okay. Oh wait. What was it? Karsu.
That's
Right.
Rursi. Rursi is the cleric that went inside. Karsu is the Scion. And then Braxel is her beast companion / protector.
And then Silwyn's still on the ground. You said that she was tagging along with Ramus.
Yeah, you were riding on the horse.
Okay. Before she kind of got on, is it okay if I look for one thing and then also I'm hoping that she would have something. Pretty much, can she look for a flower real quick?
Absolutely, because, as much as we heard and try to move this thing in a certain direction, shit like this happens. I need to make sure you guys have the opportunity to do what you want to do. So yeah, what kind of flower is it you're looking for? If you remember correctly, when we first got to this place, they had a grove of all kinds of different herbs and rare flowers and shit up on the riverbank when we first got here. You remember that, Jeremy? It was even actually on the battle map when we arrived. So there's a chance you'll be able to find what you're looking for. What are you looking for?
So I'll kind of just tell you what I'm kind of thinking about.
Okay.
So pretty much like the Scion scene's pretty young, right?
She is, yes.
Yeah, she's really young. And I think that Celine
Maybe 14 going on 15. Very beautiful, and she is dressed in a very provocative way, but is very traditional, I guess, for Scions, with a shaved head and glassed over eyes most of the time. Very exotic look.
I think Selwyn can empathize with the fact that maybe having a lot of pressure put on you to fit into a certain role, especially being so young, having no room to literally spread your wings with Selwyn, it was a very literal one, being trapped in the Maiden of Song kind of world. So I think the reason why she's looking for a flower, she wants to kind of give it to the Scion to kind of be like, all right, you got this, we got this, kind of like a show of like, support, trust sort of thing of like, I believe in you, we believe in you, you believe in you, we got this type thing.
Okay, just do me a charisma check. I'm just curious to see overall how well you do this.
Okay.
First, I'll have you do a investigation to find a flower that you think best fits this occasion, and then I'll have you do the charisma to see how well you pull this off to talk to the foreigner.
Okay, so the first roll. So what would be the first one?
The first one would be the actual investigation, looking for the proper flower, or a nature check.
Okay, both of them are intelligence, so that's a 5 plus 3, so 8. So
Okay, so when you go over to the flowers of all the rain, you see all of them, and all of them have just really taken a beating and stuff like that. It's hard to find one example of any one particular one that would be primarily useful, and they also clipped several of these to add into healing mixtures and stuff when they were trying to help Roshi and stuff. So the pickings are slim, but total you got an 8. You're able to get something that you hope is more symbolic than the actual beauty is to be appreciated.
yeah,
That's what an 8 will get you. Yeah.
I'm thinking like maybe one of those kind of like weak sort of daisies that maybe sprout out of asphalt. Like it's definitely not strong by like any stretch of the imagination, but maybe kind of cute.
So you're looking for the diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. That will work. You would see one that was beginning to sprout out of a chunk of a piece of fallen tree and stuff like that. And I would say in that moment, because there's no flower here beautiful to pick from, you would actually pick up the chunk of wood it has rooted itself into. and take over and show her that it's growing against the odds, and have the actual piece of what it has attached itself to, despite the fact that something shouldn't be growing there.
Mhm.
And that you'll take all that. And for your other check is the presentation. Tell me what your role is first.
So it's charisma, right?
Absolutely it
So
is.
that's a +3, and I rolled an 18, so that's 21.
Okay, so now with a 21, you can just silhouette the hell out of this thing. Your best version of how this conversation goes. Like for you to role play what you say to her when you hand her this, as she's going through moments, and she seems to be looking through her back. And as you go to walk up, you can see that Baraxel's face meets yours first, as this cat always has a very soothing, very calm look to its face. Very large, jaguar-like appearance, but but much bigger. It's strange to be that close to something so fierce, but you know it's a person.
Mhm.
And she rubs the back, these large muscular back. You've seen the back of these creatures are very huge. And she looks over to you without saying a word. Her lips just gaped ever so slightly.
Hey, um,
Hi.
I know that we have a big task ahead of us, you more so than any of us here. And I know you have big shoes to fill. And I know that can be tough to have a lot of expectations put on you. I know that you seem to not be swayed by it. And I think you're incredibly strong. And I know that we believe in you. And you don't have to do this entirely alone. And I know it may feel like it, but I'm here should you ever need me, and we're going to help you get through this. And then, like, kind of holds it on, kind of be like, I wish it was prettier, but there's something poetic in the resiliency and this kind of weird little flower, and kind of where it's growing out of. And I want to offer it to you.
In that moment, you notice something very strange. She releases the tentacles from Baraxel. And when she does, you can see it's almost like a little wave of air comes over top of her, and her eyes go from white to their traditional color. Like she is breaking a connection for a moment to have a real moment with you, a word. And when they do, they are almost a hazel-like color, which is still somewhat rare, but not unheard of with these kind of people. And she looks at you. And she smiles. And it's so sweet and so timid, the way that she smiles. You can tell it's almost like when you see films of natives and someone is being nice to them for one of the first times when they've lived harshly for so long. It is that kind of moment that she shares with you. And when you do that, she takes the item for a minute, and when her fingers brush yours, I want you to do me a wisdom saving throw.
Okay. I rolled a 14, and I add to that +1. Yeah.
15 total?
Yeah.
Okay. When she touches your fingers, you hear words, but her lips just stay parted. You hear her voice in your head. And you are given a vision. You see this flower sprout and grow on fast forward, with the skies just flying overhead. You see bees and other creatures coming and collecting the pollen. Up close, you can hear the buzzing in your ears. You see all kinds of sprouts of this identical flower seem to sprout up and grow almost like the fast animation videos that you see of plants breaking through the surface and regrowing. And you can see metaphorical fields of these. And the words are, this flower represents the Atladi people. With hope and the help of people like you, we too shall grow strong and numerous once again. Baraxel will keep us both safe. Have no fear. And she takes that from you.
I don't have fear. And you talk a lot about your people, which is admirable, and they're very lucky to have you. But also, you as an individual matter too. Like, separate from this history that you need to continue and kind of the path you need to set, which all matters very much. And we're here to help you continue that. But you, how do you say her name again?
Car Sue. Almost imagine there's a hyphen there, like Kar-SU.
Say, you, Karsu, are very, very important, just as you are. And you're very powerful as you are. Power set aside.
She just stares at you. And
Whatever
her
you
lips
need.
gape as if maybe there's a real word that's going to come out. But you can see strain on her brow, as if she's at a loss and confused with the words, because the idea of self is very alien to her. You know, for that to reach her truly, and to think about herself as an individual instead of just a means and a vessel and a purpose, would take more time than just one heartfelt conversation. And you see that indifference. It's the best way I could explain it.
No, I got it. I hope that one day you'll get to feel that, to feel you. But I get it. Trust me, I get it. But I'm here for you. And I'm here for your people, but I'm here for you, Karsu. Just so you know. By the way, do you know the name of my little friend here?
No, I don't, but I'll make up something.
Yeah.
She looks at you and she says, and she says in her own words, oh, you mean, and let me make up something. Just all I gotta do is draw it up, because I've got an idea in my head here. Oh, does that work? Does that work? Yes.
No, that's the thing. You can't talk.
And I think that would be followed by a AL.
Just don't yell. Really, what do you want to talk about?
But I don't know if that whirls off the tongue. I've looked at so many of their words lately that I know how they put stuff together. Like their syllables and what they end stuff with. It's based on the Aztec language, the Nahuatl language. I'm trying to make something that sounds cool and is pronounceable. Because a lot of their shit is not. A lot of their stuff is very strange. Let's... Salawal. S-A-U-L-A-L.
Saul.
A-L.
A-L. Solo?
Yes.
Okay. It's like, Solo. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. I think it recognized a feathered friend. And then I think she kind of like wiggles her wing a little bit. Does someone have any like rations or anything at all on her person?
Sure, yeah. You have some stuff. Yes, absolutely. You would have packed actually a little bit of an absurd amount for the trip ahead because you don't go on trips very often.
Mhm.
And I think Merc, Ignatius, and all of them would have thought it quite comical that someone your size would have been taking so much. So I will say you are over-equipped for something like this, as I imagine Selwyn would be. Yes.
So I think probably she digs around and finds like a cracker of some sort and gives it to the bird.
Oh
and
my
then
God,
she's-
you're really going to do the Polly wants a cracker
Oh
thing, aren't you?
yeah.
You're going to
Oh,
do
yeah.
it. Damn it.
So she's
Um,
giving just a cracker to the bird, and she's like, "Well, time to go, I guess." And then, by the way, I think from now on, Karsu,
Yes.
she's just gonna call her Karsu moving forward because the Scion is the Scion, which I know is a title of respect, but it also kind of erases her identity. So I think she's gonna be like, from this point on, we're addressing her as Karsu. Hold on. I think she may be like, "Is it okay if I call you by your name?" If not, that's okay.
No. She parts her lips ever so slightly and nods with a smile. And she does like a triple shake of her head, kind of childlike, kind of.
Okay. Karsu. Scion, fantastic name, but I would like to talk to you. But Karsu, we got this. Let's get going. So I think she kind of like thumbs up, turns around, hops on the giant horse.
All of a sudden, when you do that and you're walking off, now you're seeing that soul. How the hell do we pronounce this? How are we going to pronounce it? Saul Law.
Mhm.
Saulal. Saul. Okay. You feel something tugging at you. And the large beak of this creature is now looking into your pouch for more of that same thing this ornery streak has gotten to the creature, because you know how some animals are when they get a bite of something, they don't want that to be the last one. So it's kind of digging around through with that long beak, kind of just and it's making these sounds as it's trying to go through your shit now.
I think she may fish out a second one and then be like, I think she may make eye contact with the bird and be like, "Do you understand me?" Okay, so I will give you more of this, but if you have all of it now, you can have none of it later. Understood?
Comes over and takes it and turns his head sideways and kind of snaps it out. And it would hurt if it got your fingers, but it doesn't. It's pretty precise about it. And as it does, it kind of just shudders its head into its shoulders. And there's things just kind of flare up on its head as it's kind of munching over this as crumbs seem to fall. And you can hear little pieces of them off your wyvern armor as it is going through this foreign treat. Okay. So before we head that direction, anyone else got anything, little role play or something like that before we head out? Going once? That's it. Okay, so I have a question for you all. Which path of two would you want to take? I'll give you two different options. There is one that would be somewhat quicker, but it would be more dangerous because it would be more open and flat terrain, and you could be easily discovered by either a Quetzalcoatl or some things like that. So one is quicker, but it's open, easy going, and there's a little bit more of a chance of bad things seeing you on the way. Or would you take the route that is just a little bit longer, has some terrain issues that will have to be dealt with and stuff, but overall you think would keep you further away from the vision of the Quetzalcoatl and things like that? So you have to decide, you get there when it's a little bit darker. Do you hurry? Do you risk it a little bit and take faith in that? Or do you go a route that would be kind of harder to pass and have a little bit better rolls as far as shit coming after you and things like that, but you don't know what you'll find either way? As this is going on, I'll present this question to you all like this. As everyone's moving along, the first people that hear of this are Valdera and Bastille. Shakoma is riding Rowdy at this point. And Valdera says for a minute, she goes, I've not I've got a question. It seems that we have time. Shakoma's like, yes, there's a question. What is it? You mentioned back at the lodge that you were meant to have the Quetzal code as your creature, as gutsy a move as that is, gutsy as one as I've ever heard of. If you still truly believe that, you can pull that off. If you believe that, I would like to see that happen. But my question is, if that's the case, then who does Rowdy belong to? And Bast, when you hear this, I don't know if you've ever even thought of it. You know, Rowdy came to the shores. This place would be so over the place, off the ship. You know, we never even thought about this.
Right.
And there's a pause. And Shakoma kind of firms up a little bit. And you can see that her shoulders square up a little bit up in front of her as Valdera looks back at you. Kind of like, with that look like, I don't know if I should have asked that or not. You know, Kaminoshi, you know she can be a little brash at times. But it's one warrior woman talking to another. She says she's willing to risk it, right? And in that moment, she says, as soon as I can see it, she goes, it belonged, Rowdy belonged to my brother. And until Rowdy finds someone else suitable, he is bonded to me. My brother's dying wish. Valdera just kind of lets it go as we were tracking forward. And Shakoma actually snaps to for a minute and looks around and says, that reminds me of something I've needed to ask you since we've left. And I'm going to say at this point we've been traveling maybe 2 hours. Okay? And, oh, just 1 minute. Okay. So, she says, she lays out that there's 2 paths up ahead. Okay? And she says, with the one path that would be possibly the safest for the group. I do not think that Rowdy would be able to make the trip. And it's almost as if the creature can hear the conversation, knows what's going on. But we cannot take them into the temple with us either way. There will be a part where they will have to find their way back. Which way would you all feel safer going? And she lays out those 2 decisions to Valdera and Bastille first. Okay? So, having said that, I'd like to get Danny's thoughts, or rather Bastille's thoughts. What do you think about the 2 that I've laid out?
That says the sooner we get there, the sooner we can start this assault. But if it's more dangerous, if there's more fights, we're not going to be fresh when we get there. I know what I'm capable of.
The chance of being seen by things in a much open, more climate. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, in other words, when I'm rolling the DCs, you know, and I roll to see how things go and you guys are going places, the rolls are going to be a little bit higher in the flat, open spaces, but we'll be able to get there quicker. You understand the concept.
Yeah.
So, what do you think?
He's thinking that, you know, if we're spotted, there's a bigger chance of us having to fight, and that brings us down. But Time is of the essence. But he looks back at Merc on that giant steed, and he's like, "We also need stealth, and that's going to be hard to hide in the open."
True.
What do you think, Valdera?
Valdera says, I've been on an airship. I've been on a fucking boat. And I feel like I've been getting a little lazy maybe lately. I don't mind if this big boy takes a little bit of rest and we do a little rock climbing. She goes, I'd say I want to keep my blade as sharp as possible to saw through as many fucking bazillion as we can. She goes, let's stick to the little bit slower path. But that doesn't mean we mess around. And Shakum says, that will mean that our steeds will have to leave sooner. She goes, I'm good with that. Valdera says, that's my call. She goes, hey. She goes over there to Brahmas. She goes, we're taking a tally. We're thinking either quick and dangerous or slower and a little bit more climbing. We're thinking the little bit slower approach might be the way to go. What are your thoughts on this?
Timing's involved. I hope you're prepared to go even slower.
How you mean?
He just
As soon as he says that, he's like, this thing that we have to climb, will it bear him?
Shakoma kind of looks at him for a minute and is questioning it. She goes, as long as he goes first by himself, I believe that the rest of us could follow. At least the last time I was there. It's a long bridge over top of a canyon, created many ages ago when the Terrachua first appeared.
you're not making this an any more appealing idea.
Valdera says, well, just think of it this way. If you can't make it across, you can just wave your arms and the Quetzalcoatl can just pick you up and drop you off on the other side.
Doesn't sound too bad.
Are you sure the bridge is still there? The Vasilian haven't taken it down? When was the last time you seen it?
Shakoma yells back, as Kill Tusk. And she says in your all's native language and stuff to you, it's like, make sure I get down the name of this right. Just a minute. You're making me pull out my notes from today. Which is good, because I'm glad I at least get to use them. She says to you, the bridge over Talico Falls. Does it stand? Have you seen it lately? Go ahead and do a history check for me, Colby. Kill Tusk? One and the same person? Tell me what you get. What'd you get, bud?
18.
15.
18.
14.
18.
18. I can't help your mic sucks. You need to fix it. So an 18 is good. You were there, and it was holding. You believed that Brahmas by himself could get over that thing, but you wouldn't want anyone else to be out there with him, and he's going to have to be brave. You know that the fall down from that, going over that, what it looks like, Kill Tusk, is there's a big crack and crevice into the inside piece of the Crescent Cradle. And this will be a piece that will take you into the next island over. This is kind of like crossing a boundary, right? Because we're crossing over and going into foreign territory to go into this water temple. It's the place where those people were pretty much ran off. We'll get there. We'll talk about it later. But it's a large crevice, and it has opened up this large cave system miles back into inland. But there's this extraordinarily beautiful long waterfall that comes off and curtains down and hits into this. And down below, this is like a cove in the bottom of this canyon that cuts right out into the ocean. Right out into like the Bay of Hope, which is the large body of water that's in the most southern part of Ulran. Okay? And, I mean, it's pretty much like whitewater ocean inside the very bottom of this canyon. It is treacherous. It would be hundreds of feet down to the water. You know, there are pieces of the actual edges of the canyon that have fallen over and made ways that you could probably navigate climbing down the sides, jumping from one of these to the other. There's an actual ancient set of stairs that were made out of these pieces of canyon edge, like the top of slope, that had fallen down in there, and they are built from rock to rock. But because it's rained so much lately, you know that the waterfall will really be kicking out, and this can be very slimy, covered with algae and mold, and a lot of that water from the waterfall will be slamming down on that walkway. So if the bridge were gone, that would be an option, but we'd be getting wet, and it's hard to traverse that too. So be careful, could probably make it through here. If it's going and screwed and it breaks or something like that, hundreds of feet down, but if it can be traversed, it'll be fine. You've seen different creatures go across it, dinosaurs before. But also, the path down to the bottom is manageable, but would be dangerous because you'd have to be careful of the water and keeping your footing and stuff like that. It'd be like walking through an ancient set of stone stairs that goes underneath a waterfall crashing down on top of it practically, or partially. So, when she says, have you seen, you know, the last time you were there, the bridge was intact and looked like that. So tell her what you would like.
Then Kyotusk will respond. I remember seeing the bridge whole, but if it has changed since the last time I have seen it, you may have to be careful and take the path that goes under.
With that, Silouan, are you adding in anything to this equation? Merc, Silouan, have a conversation. Which way you guys want to go?
I imagine the slower, like, you mean in terms of the bridge thing?
Well, yeah, I mean, just in terms of the two different options, you know. And have you gotten to decided, Jeremy, you said you wanted to go the slower route for safety of not being seen in open spaces, or did you want to risk it to get there a little quicker? Which way did you go?
Well, obviously, trying to step away from everybody is probably not the most ideal thing to do. So he is a lot more lenient towards the slower path.
Okay.
But his main concern is the slower path with this many people any less dangerous on a rickety bridge? That's his main concern.
Okay, so how do you verbalize that, or is that just what you're thinking? Because that's all good if you're telling me your inner thoughts, but what's your answer?
So yeah, he would kind of look around, processing the information given on the bridge and the crevice and everything else, and the alternate route should the bridge be gone. And he would voice just that, you know, is it really that much safer for all of us to be going across this bridge, or worst case, under this bridge?
Who are you asking that to?
Anybody listening?
Okay. Killtusk, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No.
Okay.
Is it hardcore raining still? I think you rolled a 9, right?
I did earlier, yeah. And I'm going to let that keep for a while, yeah. I'll say it slacked down to a degree, but it's coming down pretty steady right now.
Does
We've-
that give us any cover in the more open one? If it's sort of like this heavy sort of rain and clouds.
Well, you know what? Let's say that's Silwyn's thoughts. That's your thought process, right? You're thinking about that. Well, would that maybe be an option? Because, and the trick is to that, your instincts want to tell you yes. And then you look back to when that Quetzalcoat came and you all thought you were going to be bird food. And it was raining heavy then. And this thing came through the clouds from a distance, and although you guys were able to hide, there was a decent amount of tree line. There was something else there that was able to run interference. And remember, it preyed upon those triceratop-looking creatures and shit like that. And your experience you would have to think that it would help that way. But after running into that Quetzalcoat and seeing the massiveness of that creature and how it pinpointed out, and never found us. But the arrows had to take off to distract it from us. You're just not. It's tough for there to be a clear decision here, honestly.
If we know that the other route is faster, they couldn't possibly get all of us at once. If it makes shown, we scatter. Getting to where we need to be to the best of our ability. It's only going to go after one.
Okay. So you're kind of leaning towards going towards the mainlands, the flat, the faster route.
Yeah, because the way he's thinking is if we can get there faster, the chance is there that we're going to be seen, but at the same time, there still stands a chance that we won't. And there's not as big a chance of trying to go down slippery, slimy slopes in the middle of a 9 in a rainstorm.
Yeah. Okay. With that, Silwyn, does that lean you towards either way? Are you kind of going along with him, or are you thinking about the slower way being a safer option? And Jeremy, I want you to roll an Arcana check.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, slower safety, but if at this
I
point
would like to make it known that given what Brahmas just suggested, Silwyn already knows what's going through his head.
Okay.
Which is, it's got to go after somebody. It's going to be him.
Yeah.
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 Well, okay. So what she's thinking is, ideally it would be the slower route, but she is concerned about Merc and Brahmas's safety because it's a big entity. Yeah. And if we go the fast route, she is not going to let him be the only one.
10 total? I can't think of anything arcane wise that would help you, unless Jeremy thinks of something, but right at the moment I'm not going to give you any clues from a 10.
Bass says, I can give you cover of darkness and silence, but we have rain, and if we think this will last, if we can get there before this rain stops, the quicker path may be better. If we have rain, we have the cover of darkness. That'll aid
Merc's
us, though.
familiarity with military tactics and things of that sort.
Yeah.
Would there be a roll I might be able to make to take a guess at how long this rain might stick around?
Shakoma's looking up right now and going to tell you. Yeah. As fast as the clouds are moving, you would think that the storm was not going to last long and that it was going to possibly break the next day. But the way that the rivers have been moving up and things like that, and the way it's a little bit colder, she thinks that there's going to be a break in about morning, but it's not going to be much of one, and it's going to start up heavy again in the mid to around noontime. So there's going to be a break in it in the morning, but it may not be a very long one from what she can tell.
She's communicated that with us.
Yes.
And is it still dark?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're traveling at. We left there at like 3:34 in the morning. We're trying to get there under the veil of darkness to a little bit. So, you know what I mean. We've got a very small window to work with here.
Given the lack of light and the heavy rain, the faster route may wind up being our better spot.
Okay.
Our footsteps will at least be mucked.
Okay. So we got one for that. Bastille.
Say we go the quick route. I don't want to lose the the key to getting in and out of that place over a bridge.
Okay, that's two. Valdera says, just kind of nods and says, it seems like I'll be doing my leg stretching when I get to the temple. Let's get crazy. That's three. What are you saying, Silwyn?
If it targets us, and then I think she pokes the back of Brahmas's head,
Yeah.
we are going to be the distraction, and you guys go ahead.
Valdera is staring at Brahmas, wondering what he's going to say to that sarcastically.
Not a thing.
She says,
Valdera could even
that'll
tell
work.
from that she knows that if something goes down, Promise is taking the heat.
Valdera would say sarcastically, oh, that's going to work.
Well, you get it. If it's something from the air, I'm in the air, and I can be very annoying.
No, I believe in you, Silwyn.
And remember,
Valdera says,
worst case
but I don't think
scenario,
I'm the
I
one
don't
you
need
have to
breathe.
convince.
What did Brahmas just say?
And said, remember, I don't need to breathe.
Cool. Anyway.
I love this. I love it. Okay, cool. All right, Kill Tusk. Vote now.
Kill this proper thing. Yeah, if it comes to that bird, it will. The safest option would not be out in the open. So he would say go under.
Okay, Valdera says maybe you could use that monster call a little better this time around. So, Belly, I don't think you were with us yet. When this last time happened, it was. To be honest, it was pretty scary, wasn't it, guys? I feared for y'all's life. And Colby had this. He does these monster calls where he can make it sound like these pterodactyl-like creatures are off in the distance. And had it planned and had it set up and everything. They talked about it for 20 minutes. And the time came, and that Quetzalcoatl is coming down through the waves and like it's coming down, and stuff. He's like, run. Didn't use it, didn't do shit. And I'm just like, run. Okay, cool. Let's see how this goes. Dude, I was just kind of like, are you joking? But it was cool. It gave me the moment.
best part about it is like all I can imagine is like those cartoons where you see people poking out from behind a tree and all their heads are like stacked like that.
Yeah.
That's all I can imagine everybody's doing.
Oh, it was
Looking out
good.
from behind the tree.
It was glorious. It was glorious. Okay. So we're deciding on that, which is great because I wrote something up for that. So I wrote something up for both, which is really cool. I'll probably force feed you guys the other ones on the way back. We'll see how it goes. But with that, I think we should take a break, refill cups, do all that kind of thing. We've been doing this for 2.5 hours now, close to 2. We'll come back and try to get done by around 10:30 and see if we can't get our eyes on a couple things. It's good stuff. We're on our way. So let me get this lined up real quick. And we'll be back in just about 15 minutes or so. Okay, we're back. Good deal. Wish there's a way I can make it easier on myself so I didn't have to do like double key presses like in the Goonies when they're trying to press the 2 keys at the same time. If they don't, they're falling into that pit on swords. That's how it feels. All right. So, you all have decided to take the path
I don't know if I just lost you or.
It was me. I was talking to the kids. You're all right.
Yeah, we chose the path of silence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, real good. So you all decide to make your way through a place that's going to go kind of around the river system and through that natural peril that's there to get there a little bit quicker while it's a little bit darker outside, but run the risk of being spotted or seen out in wide open spaces. Now, from your experiences, you realize that the pterodactyls and stuff don't fly overhead very often anymore. And one of the very few predators, well, I really wouldn't think there's any real predators that are out and about and acting like the Quetzalcoatl's not back now. The only ones that are really slick enough to pull it off are like the displacer beasts and stuff like that, because they're low down enough where they can't be seen. They're very dark and hard to spot from the sky. So the trick being, if something has the guts to come out and attack you all, then it's obviously hungry enough to risk being seen by the Quetzalcoatl as well. So, you know, I've been trying to think about the way to set all this up, and I've got some DCs here for us. So, let's go ahead and say that as you travel for a bit longer, maybe 45 minutes, maybe another hour, you know, you guys know that you're getting closer to the temple. Okay? You're seeing the water level getting higher and higher, and the ground is becoming marshier and marshier. And there seems to be a large area of flat open land with several rolling hills throughout and above it, with low-laying fog in it, but layers, like there's a cloud right on the surface. Then there's another cloud about another 100 foot up. Then there's the heavy storm clouds, and the wind just seems to be stirring. Okay? Very few trees or anything other than a couple rock structures and the remnants of what seems to be a deceased dinosaur, almost like a brontosaurus, like a huge one. Out in the distance, you can see its rib cage sticking up through the natural foliage of the belly of the jungle, up in the middle, almost like a Stonehenge, but with dinosaur bones. And it's out there in the middle, and this is a long stretch of at least a mile, if not 2 miles from here, before you get into anything dense again. There's a river about halfway through it that seems to have branched out into multi-facets, as if the water level has came up where it might have been things you could have waded through, but it has flooded over and kind of encompassed some of the land. You guys are getting to that part of the trip. Okay? So, with that, Shakoma stops Rowdy. And she stands down. Just 1 minute, I apologize. Okay, back. Sorry, guys. All right. So, thank you. So, Shakoma gets down off of Rowdy and turns around and addresses the group. And she kind of looks like her movements are a little bit slower, and she stops there. And when she hops down, she stares off the sky for a long moment. And you can see the heavy wind and the rain blowing through her hair. And she's just kind of studying it, standing there silently. Baraxel, still in this form of this creature, comes up, and Karsu steps off and walks over to her and takes her hands, and they share a few whispered words. And Shakoma's kind of looking out. Shakoma looks over for Kiltusk. She wants to have a council with you about this before we move forward in this. So, do you join them, Colby?
Yes.
Okay. So, as she looks over at you, and you come up there, do you dismount from Loki, or do you stay strode on him?
I stay strode on him.
Okay. She says, we're going to need to usher them through this to make it through this in one piece. It's the things I don't see that worry me. Everything is waiting for that last chance meal. Everything out here is dangerous and deadly. The fact that I don't see things grazing and acting normally out here makes me very suspicious. She goes, I will lead the way, but I will need Loki to do so. When I go through, if something stirs up and a fight breaks out, I'm going to need you to take Rowdy and come for aid and watch the skies. Can you do that? Did you give an answer?
Okay.
What'd you say? I didn't hear a word. Okay. She looks to Karsu, and she looks over to Silouan and Brahmas, and she goes, you should stay in between everybody. She gives Silouan a long look, overhearing your words earlier, saying, they will protect you. You are the key to the temple. Without your safe passage, none of this works. You can hear Baraxel begin to kind of growl ever so slightly in the distance as a sign of his strength. And as that happens, she walks over to Loki and puts her hand on his head. With a natural 17 on animal handling. And is going to talk to him and stuff and see if he will let her on him so she can begin to go out there and see if there's anything that needs to be stirred up. Does anyone else have anything they want to add?
What is it you think you're going to find out here?
She looks to you and she says, there are several different dinosaurs that can lay in wait along the outside line. Many of them scavenge the leftovers from the Quetzalcoatl and larger creatures, like that unfortunate one out there. There could be a pack of displacer beasts waiting for someone to cross through the rivers. There could be... And she looks up the sky. There could be anything.
How far would we have to make it? How far do we need to scout ahead before we have to go back to the normal riding condition?
At least to the river.
And that's about a mile.
Getting close, yeah.
What if I scout ahead? I can see in the darkness. I'm quieter. I can run fast enough. I can run faster, quiet. I can run quieter all out than this thing can walking. No offense, as he looks up.
She gives you a long look. Do you know what to look for?
Tell me. Or if you can keep up,
If I can keep up.
we'll both go on foot. And I can get us out of there. They won't be able to see us unless, can they see in magical darkness? Or he says, yeah, he would say magical.
Yeah, when you say the magical darkness thing, she doesn't understand. You've said it a couple times, but she doesn't quite get it.
I looked at Sue and the Scion, and can you explain magical darkness? Because she's seen in my head enough to know when she did that.
Okay. On that, she just kind of looks puzzled for a minute. A little bit frustrated.
Keep your beast calm. And here goes 3 MP points. I cast a sphere of darkness and then dissipate it as soon as, I cast it and I'm like, can you see?
So you just cast it right on her, right in the middle of this conversation.
No, I tell her just hold on, keep everything calm. I will show you the magical darkness. And I pop it up. But however far away I am from her, I cast it on myself.
Okay.
So
she says in a panicked, angry voice, she goes, I see nothing. What is this?
He says, be calm. Hold some fingers up for me.
Hold on, fingers? What are we... And you hear her do this.
As she's getting ready to do that, like I'm sure she's moving around, and whatever she's doing, he describes to her. He says, just hold some fingers up and let me show you I can see in it.
How does my blindness help us see what's ahead? What is this?
He dissipates it. He says, if we see something, they won't see us, and I can get us out of the darkness.
We won't see anything like this. At that moment, she just kind of stands there looking to try to see the direction that she was in previously. She goes, are you guiding me?
3 steps forward. Half a step left.
Okay, are we and Danny out of game? Are we doing that for a mile?
No, he's telling her that basically what'll happen is we will use the cover of darkness, but if something spots us, he'll create more darkness. So we'll be as stealthy as possible. But if they approach us, if we see them, if they catch wind of us, I'll bring up darkness and I'll guide you out of it. And they'll be scrambling around in there unless they can see in that. Which I'm guessing they can't, unless maybe the displacer beast.
Roll a persuasion check of disadvantage because she's very confused by this.
It's an 8 plus 7, so that would be 15.
Yeah. She's wanting to understand what your plan is here, but for the life of it, she doesn't get it. And when she's looking around, she's thinking, I can't see, and if I can't see, I can't scout. And if I'm not on Loki, and we're going on foot and doing this, we have no way of evading these creatures in speed. They'll take us. How big is the darkness? There's so many questions. She doesn't even know where to start.
He goes, look, you and I will be quiet. We will sneak. We will find things. We will move as quick as possible. And they won't hear us. I promise. Because we're not going to hear them in this. And I can make it so we don't make a sound at all.
Are we in darkness or silence?
Right now we're in darkness. And he He knocks the darkness away, so she's a little more comfortable. Dispels it.
Okay. She looks around and sees that nothing's changed. She looks at you very judgingly. And then she whips an eye over to Karsu. Karsu just is looking back and forth at the two of you. Peacefully, just looking and pondering. She gives a nod and a smile. I'll be fine. Go. And reluctantly, stubbornly, Shakoma stands at you, and you can tell she's just going through the military thing. You know how a military person just does what they're supposed to, whether they like it or not, and they are very honorable about that. That's the version of Shakoma that you're getting now. Let's just do this. So go ahead, Danny, and enact how you're wanting this to go.
So the plan is we'll take off at a jog stealthy, and I'll see how quiet she is during that, and then I'll make the next decision from there.
Okay.
So
all right, let's go.
We're going to take it about 50 yards at a time. We're going to do kind of an advanced stalk hunting. So 50 yards at a quick jog, as quiet as we can, and then stop, look, and then 50 yards, stop, look.
Okay. Now, what all's on us when we're doing this?
The first 50 yards, we're going to do nothing, and I'm going to see how stealthy she is to figure out what I've got to do to get her through it.
Okay.
Because if she's quiet on her feet, it's better if we can whisper. But if not, which, we've played with that ring before, but we'll see.
Okay. All right. So, stealth checks for me and you. And at what point are you going to let the rest of folks know it's safe to start?
That'll be for her to signal back, because I'm sure they have a way of... We'll figure that out as we go.
Okay. Anyone have anything to say to go along with this or object to this conversation that's going on before these two take off? Okay. I'm rolling a stealth check.
Only thing that I think Silouan is thinking as she bites her tongue is like you need to protect the key. I think Silouan is biting her tongue mentally and being like, I'm protecting Karsu, not a key. Keys are disposable, people are not. But she has a feeling that wouldn't go over well. But she's
I get
biting her tongue with that one.
No, you do you. But that's that. I figured that was internalizing. I did. I got a 15.
31. So as they stop at the first 50 yards, he says, on the balls. He whispers it. He says, on the balls of your feet when you run, and roll them to the back. You have to change the way you run if you want to be quiet.
She looks at you spitefully. She goes, I run just fine.
So I guess here we're going to do a perception check since we're at the first 50 yards.
I just did. Okay, so at that moment, everything seems to be clear. We have stirred nothing out of the underbrush. There doesn't seem to be anything along the wood line. And the skies seem to be okay. The wind is still blowing. The only thing that makes you very nervous here, Danny, is you're not even sure that you could see something through those clouds until it was pretty damn close.
Okay. Don't know how his version of Devil's Sight would help with that. I know he can see through darkness and magical darkness.
Okay. Well, can you see through dense water vapor?
Probably not.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say that a no then. Okay.
All right, let's do another 50 yards.
Okay.
23.
17.
Much better.
Thank you.
And Bast has got in 17 for perception total.
As we go that extra length and we're getting out there quite a distance, Kiltusk, you would notice that Loki sniffs the air and seems to be bobbing his head back and forth nervously. Rowdy would be acting not very different. But Loki is just kind of standing there without a rider currently, just waiting to see how this all unfolds. Okay? Because, well, no, you were still on Loki, weren't you? You hadn't dismounted. Okay. Yeah, you can feel the heartbeat between the legs. You can feel it is, you don't know if it actually senses something or if it's nervous. What is it that you're doing?
Can I roll perception to see if I can notice what he is possibly noticing?
Yep. Go ahead.
Soft 20.
Okay. As you close your eyes and place your hands on the back of Loki and focus for a moment, you would see that the shadows seem to be playing tricks on Loki's eyes. And because of the heavy rain-filled gusts of air seem to be moving the leaves in big, massive sweeps off to the sides, where the wood line continues to the right and left of us, correct? Sure. And because of that, it makes the underbrush shadows and stuff dance and do weird things. And Loki is very focused on those edges, off in the distances. And also, he seems to be looking out over what seem to be a large cluster of stones that are off into the distance, almost to the river in the center. Seems to be a bunch of large amber and tan colored rocks that are laying in all different kinds of heights and stuff, almost scattered throughout there. You would have to assume that that is rock that where the water has risen has washed up around it. It's something that's exposed. But that's all you get.
Okay.
Could just be shadows at this point, okay? So, we've made it 100 yards. There doesn't seem to be anything at this moment, Danny. Everything seems to be still at this moment. Now tell me what kind of spells we have up right now, what's going on.
Right now, he's just seen she's quiet enough to go without using his ring of silence. So the only thing he's got up is just his own skills, because she's hanging with him well enough that he doesn't see a reason to make her more stealthy.
Okay.
I mean, it's in the rain, it's in the dark, and she's doing very well.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and go the rest of the way, and we're going to try to get to the riverside, so I'm not doing this 100 times. Okay? So, let's go ahead. Are we doing another stealth here? She has her spear out, holding it down low to her sides to part the grass in front of her. It's a trick that she uses. The grass is actually about waist tall here, if not some parts a little higher. It's abnormally big, almost like all the prehistoric creatures of this place. And when she goes, she parts the stuff with the spear as if she's looking in between, like almost when you look for something in your hair and you're parting the hairs looking in there. She's doing it with her spear as she goes through.
He gets close to her and he whispers, "Do you need to hear? Can you search without your hearing, with sight alone?"
I will try this, but if I do not like it, end it.
He says, "If you don't like it, close your fist over your chest if you want it gone. Tap me on the shoulder so that you have my attention."
She holds her hand up and she looks at the rain and feels it, and she's thinking about something. And she agrees. She wouldn't if it had not been for Karsu, but she'll go along with that, okay?
He rubs his ring and invokes it. I'm casting silence, which is a 20-foot radius. No sound comes in or out. I know there's times that we've used it like in like a, but I don't think he could focus that much and run and do all the other stuff.
Right.
You know, when you're in a bar room setting, you can kind of shape it, but he's not a mage, so it takes a lot.
$19 on my stealth.
24.
As we're going along, Danny, we come to this series of rocks. And you're noticing that the water, although you can't hear it squishing between your toes, the water's coming up through the thick grass. It's getting flooded in this area. And as we're headed that direction, and we're going through, and she's moving her spear back and forth, she comes up and she starts steering almost like the Plinko game. She kind of looks up for just a moment and navigates some of these large, flat, kind of like stones. And she kind of looks and she looks at you and begins to head in the direction it's going to take us and interweave us through them and kind of navigate that. And the second she goes through there, I need you to roll me a perception check at disadvantage, Danny.
Okay, with disadvantage would be a 14.
She stops. And you can see her open her mouth. And you can see her throat kind of move up and down her shoulders. And she takes her hand like this. And she looks over at you with intensely wide open eyes. Okay? And she says, she's indicating, can people still smell us?
He nods. But then he looks up and he goes, signals to the rain.
Roll a dexterity saving throw.
24.
As you do, you see her jerk back and look. I need to see how she does. Oh, come on. Good things. Come on, what is that? Ooh, that's not good. Okay, let me see how this does now. Just a minute. Good things. Okay, that's cool. I know your character. So, you get this quick thing. You don't even have a chance to take a heartbeat, Danny. As all of a sudden, you can't hear it. It's frightening, but you see the grass just move. Like over beside one of these flat, like pieces of sandy red kind of rock that seem to be laying out in this pattern. and out of nowhere, like something is just mowing through the grass, coming at us, and you can feel the wind and the rain come off of this as she looks over and is able to move her spear just in time. This large, massive, what looks like a bone club, connected to what can only be described as some kind of dinosaur-like tail, comes swinging at us like a freaking hammer, like hatchet kind of thing, just taking off the stuff of the grass. She ducks down. She only takes half damage from it because it hit her spear and stuff like that. But since you passed with your kit, you take no damage on a successful. As you see the tail of some creature just go flying over top of you. At that moment, as you're still in the silence, you see this multitude of these rocks start to raise up, and they are shells. These things were hiding in plain sight, and nobody knew what these things are. Tell me which direction you're jumping back, how you're evading this. Are you laying flat? Are you rolling backwards? Are you jumping up? Tell me how you evaded this maneuver.
He would have probably jumped right over that one.
Okay. As you jump up and you're able to look down, roll a history check.
Bonus is a whopping 12.
Okay. Better than 10. You've never seen anything like this in person, but you could have swore you saw the shell of something like this hanging on the inside of the hunting lodge from all the different decorations and stuff that they had up. This looks like, and I don't know how to pronounce what kind of dinosaur this is, Danny. You'll know what kind it is because we've all seen them as kids. It's like an acleosaur or something like that. But they're flat, and they have these turtle-like shells, and they have a spiked ridge that goes across them, and they're very flat lying. They got these large tails with a big bone knob, and they're vegan, which means they're a herbivore. Is that the correct term? And they were hiding here in plain sight, just hiding and munching on grass around themselves and moving extraordinarily slowly. And when we came up on them and they felt that and shit, we startled up a herd of them. Okay? And as this happens, everyone back there sees this shit. And Loki's head just goes, and he's perked up, right? And you see all these shells just kind of raise up, and you just hear the, like, thunderous feet of these things. And Danny, there is 15 coming right at us, just kind of starting to stampede, and you can hear the water splashing, and it looks like chaos in this. It's almost like I say, that Vietnam moment, because we've got that silence around us, right? So it's totally quiet. But you jump up and get a glimpse of this, so oh shit. And you could see that she was able to dodge that, but she got walloped pretty decently by part of the tail. But it hurt more of her arms as she was able to deflect that big blow as it come over. What are you doing?
He's going to let the silence go away.
Yeah.
And try to get as close to her as he casts darkness. It being a lower level intelligence animal, it's probably not going to charge into something it can't see.
So this looks like a dark globe.
Yep.
Okay. You feel like this is a good idea until you can hear the full volume of the stampede coming at you from all directions. And it may still work, but the sound of that, you have serious doubts. You know what I'm saying? I can't imagine like being in a buffalo herd and just being like, darkness is like, don't hit me. It's all good.
He can see out of it, and he's close to her, and he's like, I'll guide you. Stay on me. And he puts his hands on her so she knows he can see and he has her.
She is heavily breathing and is panicked because now there's a stampede coming at her and she can't see anything. I need you to roll persuasion with disadvantage in this moment to keep her with you. I'm not trying to make this difficult on you. We have just got ourselves in a difficult situation, Mr. McGuffey.
Would be a 17.
Okay. Okay.
Side note.
Once again, she goes along with this. What's that, Jeremy?
As a side note, while they're dealing with that, how close are we to the destination? Or the river, I reckon.
You guys are about a mile off from the river, and you can see it's you got to think about 4 tracks. 4 of the big 400 tracks. They are off in the distance, and you can see that something is kicked up, and you maybe not so much could hear the thunder of the herd, but you could feel it.
Do I get the idea that we could use that ruckus as a group to rush, kind of avoiding them being able to see the stampede instead of being in it?
I don't know. What do you think?
To rush to get further ahead. I feel like.
What do you think?
Since we can see the herd, we can kind of maneuver around it a little bit. We
Okay.
See which way they're going, and I figure as a group we would be able to make a lot of progress in a shorter amount of time.
So,
Kinda
debate it
fast
real
track.
quick. What are you saying? I need a sentence or two. And everyone just listen to Jeremy's speak through Merc's will here, and you better, if it's what you want to do, let's hear it.
We can use the rumble. We can hasten our steps. They'll hide it.
I imagine too, if something's in the sky, I'd rather go towards the giant source of noise than the little source of noise on the edge. So that may not be a terrible idea.
Kill Tusk, what do you think, buddy?
When it comes down to that bird, I can answer the herd. I'd rather it beat the herd.
All right.
Braxel, you can handle Karsu, right?
The cat comes over, looks over at you, and it's showing its teeth. And it hunkers down, and it takes those tentacles and wraps her legs and waist. Like it's going to hold her on tight. And it buckles down, and it looks left and right, and it walks up even to your warhorse, Jeremy. And looks over at its head. What are we doing?
Wait, so it's Brahmas. So are there 2 animals without riders?
Well, Valdera is on top of...
Cool.
Yeah, Valdera is on the creature, and she goes, now we're getting somewhere. That's what Valdera says as she hunkers down and grabs onto Rowdy's hair and is getting ready to kick and shit like that. Are we going for it, Jeremy? You're leading the
Go
way.
for it. They're going to see Brahma snap the reins on the horse, and he's taking the ball.
All right, take off.
It's full dash, so you got 50 foot of movement, so 100 foot.
Okay, so, and we won't think about like that. We're just going to do this in generalities, okay? So, you're deciding we're stampeding, we're going, you know, they got distraction, they've got a herd coughed up this way and shit. We're going to take that. And I imagine they're straight across. Are you wanting to go a little bit ahead of them? Or are you wanting to go behind the direction that the herd is running?
I want to basically get behind the herd. I don't want to
Okay.
get too far away from Bast.
Okay, so just to paint a
I want to
picture.
try to do it well enough to where he could look and see us making a beeline past this herd.
Okay, so to paint a picture for you, we're going to say all this from the point of view in which we started. Okay, imagine you're looking out into this large open area, brontosaurus bones and all that shit and whatnot, and the river out in the middle, it's flooded, about 2 miles across, river halfway through, flooded. Okay, so you're looking straight ahead. Okay, Danny, or Bast, and Shakoma went straight ahead. The shortest way is least resistant. Straight across, going for the woodline on the other side, right? The stampede that they tricked up was kind of in the middle on this side of the water, and they are going, they're starting it mildly to the left of them, and they are going to the far right corner. So think about looking forward. That's the direction they're running. So they're going to sow this, and they would be going, if you're facing north, they're going northeast. Okay? So you're wanting to go slightly straight, maybe a little bit to the west, a little bit behind them. Okay. And are you thinking about getting in behind that group and following their path of destruction through here to get to that point? Or once they're going off into that angle, you're going to try to go straight across the other side?
So I know that Bast and what's her name?
Shakoma.
Yes, I thought that's who that was. But I know that they are not mounted, so they're not going to be able to match the speed. So
You got Rowdy, though. Valdera could pick him up, maybe.
That's true. Rowdy probably be able to pick both of them up. So yeah, that's basically going to be the run of it then, because he's going to holler out to Valdera, and once we get close, get Bast and Shakoma. We're following the herd.
I wouldn't be able to vault either of them out, would I?
Your bowling distance is only a fraction of your movement. Like, you can go up so high, you can go out, like, what is it? You can target something up to half your movement. So if you have a movement of 40 foot, you could target something at 20. So it's nothing to measure this with.
I was
Yeah, you
like,
can-
I could grab somebody and vault away, but I don't think I could go that far away.
No,
Damn.
no. So that's
Now,
the
something
group.
that could be done if it needed to be done is you're bolting lance to somebody and then bolt away.
That could work. For short range fixes and stuff like that, something like that could help you if you did like a bolting lance and latched onto somebody. That's a possibility. But we'll talk about that mechanic if we get there. What's that, Jeremy?
Some contingency plans.
Battle buddies. Yes, I like it. So, Colby, are you good at this? Are you running in that direction? Okay. So, do you have your bow drawn? Are you going to hyper awareness? Everybody needs to tell me what they're doing in this moment, or else I'm going to consider you're just stampeding.
I would do hyper awareness, yeah.
Okay. Keep that in mind. And you also need to keep in mind you have damage reduction when you're in that state as well, too, Colby. Remember, that's part of the mechanic. Read into that and make sure you're utilizing that if it comes into play. Okay? So, you guys are taking off in that direction. Every one of you, give me an animal handling. So, Jeremy, you're the one steering this thing. You give me an animal handling. Colby, you do the same thing. And Valdera's going to do her thing. I'm going to say
roll
that...
for my third.
I'm going to say Celine is going to be on there with me. Just for the hell of it, okay?
$16.
Jeremy, what'd you get? Come on now, what'd you get? Couldn't hear you.
20.
A natural 20?
Which
Good.
makes sense. We fight as a seamless unit, so.
Which I'm glad you did that,
100% on board.
Because Valdera got a natural 1. Yeah. Kind of happened. So you guys are just... You're getting it, right? You're going up there on the war horse, the other one's looking around, and all of a sudden you look back and you just see like a tuft of dirt, and you see Rowdy's back legs and horns and shit flying around, and you hear Vala, fuck! She just goes rolling. I'd say about halfway there. She just takes off rolling, and you can hear her trying to whistle and yell to get the creature back and honed in to place, and you're going to get major distance on her. She's left behind at this point. Okay? Which sucks, because she was who was going to pick up...
She'll
Yeah.
catch up through sheer force of will.
Okay. So, Danny. Here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to let you see this. Okay? There's at least 15 of these things on one side of you, and there's at least 15 or so on the other side of you. You guys are caught in the middle of this. I'm going to bring up the dice roller. We're going to let fate decide this in front of everybody. Okay? Now, there is a chance that these creatures do not want to run straight into a dark orb there. They are also spooked out of their mind and are going to try to get to cover as quickly as they can, because they don't know if you guys are displacer beasts, if you're predators, you smell funny, you look funny, and they know if they're caught out in the open, the things from the sky can also take them out. These things are fucking panicked. Okay?
Well, To them, this would actually look solid because I know an animal can slightly see in the darkness. So it is just a solid blob that they cannot see into.
Yeah, it's a circle
Yeah,
that's
but,
dark and it's in front of them, right?
well, to them, because they can see through darkness, it would, like normal darkness, it would look like a solid black to them because it's a globe of something they can't see through.
Okay. So they can't. So they can or cannot see through it.
They cannot. They can't see anything in it or through it. So they would see the edges of it because they can see around it. So it look to them, it would almost look like a solid globe because there's no penetrating it.
A black solid globe, right?
Yep.
Okay. Good deal. All right. I'm trying to decide what. Okay, we're going to do charisma. We're going to do like a panic state for them. We're going to see how they react to this thing. You got 15 behind you. I'm going to say of those 15, there are going to be 7 that are going to be coming through that pathway. Now, how they're bumped and shit, and how they are deterred, and how they decide to run through this and whatnot, is going to be determined by the dice rolls. Okay? 1 through 14, they run around this. 15 through 20, they're going through it. And then we'll go ahead and go from there, and you guys will have your checks to see how things go. This is going to be you pulling her left and right and trying to work. So it's going to be a collection of your dexterity versus hers, and we're going to get the middle. We're going to get the average. And that's going to be the way we're going to do the scores. All right?
Sounds like
So,
a plan.
let's go ahead and do the first D20 and see what we get. Just a minute. Let me drag this over here real quick. That's a 12. Veer's left. It's good news. That's number 1. Keep track of these for me, Colby, whoever. That's 1. We got 6 more to go through. Okay? Number 2. It's a natural 17. Go ahead and roll me a dexterity.
That would be a. Well, it's easy. 24.
Okay. Shakoma's is a D20 and a D6 together. So I'm going to roll this. We'll add these 2 numbers. That'll be hers. 11. What'd you get?
24.
24 and 11 is 35. Half of 35 is 15. Is 17 or 18. I'm going to roll for the creature and see if it hits this, and we're going to see how it goes. You were able to elude number 2. Which way did you go, right or left?
Right.
How many feet? Like 5 or 10?
Just to the edge. 5.
This doesn't move with you. It's stationary, right?
Depends on what I cast it on, but since I didn't specify it's in that space, I could have cast
Shit.
it on off that it moved.
Okay. Number 3 coming up. 15 or higher. 6 misses. Let's go number 4. You got 4 more, Danny. Here he comes. Another natural 6. 3 more, guys. They don't like the blackness. They don't like the darkness. They're going around. Here we go. Yeah, natural 20. Okay. Roll your DC.
All right, that's a 28 for that one.
Okay. And hers will be the D20 and the D6 together.
Woo!
22.
So 40, so we got a 20.
We have an average of a 20, which matches the 20.
No, that's a 50. 28 and 22 is 50. So 25.
Okay, let's see how this goes. I don't think it's I don't think he's capable of hitting that, but we're going to see what happens. Nope, natural 7 on the roll. Eluded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Last time we'll go left. This time back toward
Yeah,
the center.
and I want you to understand, because it's going right through a dark object, so I'm getting the average of your dexterity rolls, and I'm making that an armor class.
Mm-hmm. Makes perfect sense.
Because it's veering your way with the initial roll for luck, right? Then you're in darkness. I'm doing your average, making that an AC, and then I'm rolling to hit and seeing if the thing can hit the... which is a fun way of doing it.
It's actually perfect because he's trying to drag her with him because she can't see.
All right, next. 2 more, right? Just 2 more?
Yep.
Is that natural 18? Yes.
That's
Okay.
A 2.
It's right here. Is it a 2?
Yeah, that's a 2.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It's a 2. Got it. Misses. Swing and a miss. Last one. Ready? Oh, dude. It was on 20.
I know. I was like,
It was on 20. Oh, shit. Okay. So, you did well. The Stampede is now moved past you and is headed into the distance. All right. Shikoma is shaking. Shikoma is shaking as you've jerked her kind of back and forth. I need to roll, make sure her spear. Yep, she still has her spear in her hand, and she's. I don't like your magic. She says kind of spitefully, and
he dispels the darkness and he points to the tracks in the ground. They dodged around.
Okay. She just, and she looks over, and you can. She goes, Baka. Oh, and she's looking in the distance, and she's seeing this big war horse with a just coming from the other side, and then out of nowhere you hear shit, and it's Valdera, and she just face plants Rowdy into the dirt. Dirt flies, and you just see the half mohawk, and just she's just a hot mess out there halfway to the river. Now that they are taking off, and you can still feel the thunder in your feet as this herd of 30 plus of these things is just going off in the beeline. They hit the water, and a spray of water comes up from that river as now they're getting in through it, and the thunder seems to subside a little bit. They're getting ready to go on the other side of it. Now we have to roll something else that's very important. And I'll do this one in front of everybody. This dictates if anything noticed. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not excited for this one. So, I just want to get a number here. Okay? These things are literally thunder wave running through this place because they're trampled, right? The 1d20 is going to dictate if there's something out there listening. 20 means absolutely. 1 means nothing was around. And we'll figure out what the in-between means, right? And then, when there is something out there listening, we're going to roll and see perception for it and see if it notices. Okay? And I'm going to make it a DC of 10. Because this is literally rolling thunder wave, okay? So the first number here is the big one. I mean, 20, we're talking about Keelicon. 10, we may stare up a pack of wild Allosauruses like Loki. 0 might be a mud puppy. We don't know what we're going to get into. West Virginia boys, we know what mud puppies are, don't we, Danny? It's all good. Do they have mud puppies in Indiana? Have you ever seen one? They're like a big salamander. Oh, they're disgusting.
Oh,
So
I've
anyway,
seen them in Ohio and West Virginia. I've never seen them over here.
Bella's like, I think Brian's full of shit. Just the look on her face, she's like, I don't know about this mud puppy business.
Look him
I
up.
think there's Final Fantasy monster that I'm thinking of, but I'm not sure if it's.
Oh, wow.
Is it also? Yeah, it's also called a mud puppy.
Oh, if you look up a picture of them, they're weird. They're big salamander-looking crazy things.
Yeah, people eat them. It's weird. I'm not eating that.
I've never seen one in the wild before, and I don't want to. But there was one in our glass jar in a biology lab of Mr. Kelly's biology class in high school. Weird shitting thing. But that story for another time. Let's see how dead we are. And a
Jeremy, do you
D20.
know the mud puppy I'm referring to? Okay, I'm gonna drop that one in the.
Oh.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Oh no.
Oh. I
The
just
good
want to
news
get to
is-
the temple.
The good news is, what did it? I mean, it's perceiving a herd of these things. That's going to draw its attention more.
Keep
than
talking, Danny. I want to hear it. Keep talking.
Well, you still need to roll its perception, right? It could be there.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't mean it sees us.
For this
Part of
creature.
the aim of basically following the herd is if there's anything, it's going to see all them. It ain't going to notice us.
You don't think so, huh? I think the
Oh.
perception check is going to tell us that story, Jeremy. But thanks for your input. 1d20 plus a 1d6 is going to be the perception of this creature. Okay, 10 sees the herd. Easy. 15 plus starts to see everything that's trailing around it. $15. Just barely. Okay. I'm going to say that in the distance, there is a loud roar that sounds familiar. Kiltusk, you know, this is the call of a Vokilikon. Okay. And this one sounds like it's an old one. Okay, which means a couple different things. Okay, buddy. Roll a nature check. Roll the one that you roll when you're doing your communication of monsters, the thing that you're very proficient with, Colby. And I'm going to let you kind of dictate and tell these folks what the fuck do you think they need to do in this moment. Okay? Is I'm going to find some menacing music to play in the background of this.
So am I rolling basically a monster call?
Sure, if you would like. Because it's to do one and identify one, sure. I'm good with it in this moment.
So you get a bonus from his hyper awareness on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
What'd you get?
I'm going through multiple screens right now.
Well, it's just one roll.
I know, but like I got multiple screens to go through in order to make sure I'm connecting the right skills and stuff.
Now you're just bragging. That's my menacing music for you all. What'd you get? You better tell me something quick or I'm going to make up a number.
14.
14 total. God bless. The good news about this is the older ones are not exactly immature and stuff like that, so they're looking to get a meal and go. They're older, they're a little bit sore, they're a little bit slower. And usually when they roar like that, it'll scare off if there was any other ones of their kind. But the bad news is they are more cunning than the younger ones and shit. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there. And you recognize this as that large, you know, you've seen Jurassic Park where the sumbitch sticks his head up, it's like, and they have this big roar, and it kind of echoes and sounds like it booms through sound like a jet taking off. It's that kind of roar coming from the side. And as you do, you see this thing with head down and tail up mad dashing straight in towards the herd. It's getting ready to start shoveling this shit up like a snow shovel. And I've shown you the picture of this version of a T-Rex and what they look like. They're orange and blues of highlights of white around their eyes, and they have spikes that go over top of their eyebrows, and they have more ridges on their tail, and they have some kind of white feather-like plumage up around their shoulder area, like the mantle a lion would have. They're very interesting looking creatures. And at this moment, deadly looking as shit. This thing has seen battle. And it is just coming in low and storming right towards these dinosaurs that are just panicked and running. What do you do, Kiltusk?
I'm the only one that knows that they're coming, right? Or do others now?
You're the first one that's noticed.
Um,
They've all heard the roar, but you know where to look first. Jeremy, you've heard this sound come booming out from the other side. Silwyn, you would have heard this too. Okay? Yeah. Celine and Valdera are trying to pick their asses up out of the ground right now.
Okay, then I would usher everybody to quickly get settled, basically other people are rowdy to basically hurry up and get back on and stuff, and then try to usher everybody to a safe position.
Okay, and just for curiosity, where do you think a safe position would be?
Is your name like a sort of a high ground that they
Roll
possibly
perception.
could-
You're hyper aware. I'm gonna let you do a perception with advantage.
Okay.
Where do we want to go? Not that way.
Yeah. What they say in Labyrinth? Don't go that way. He went right for that castle. Yeah.
Another 14.
Another 14. Dude, learn to roll. I swear. You just
I
make
know.
it too easy. You just make it too easy, Colby.
Get rid
You
of it.
are
Alright.
panicked in this moment. The sound of that thing, you don't see a perceivable safe place to get other than to the other side where we wanted to be to begin with. Yeah. The only thing you can imagine is you hope this son of a bitch gets full or doesn't notice us. And with that roll, I'm going to be honest with you, the first thing it's really going to notice is Brahmas and his big shiny horse. I mean, I can't help it. That's just true. That's
Then
true
we've got
words.
Knowledge of knowing that metal isn't edible.
Well, we have to chew on it first and make sure. So, yeah, it could happen, So, Danny. You hear this roar that's going out of the woodwork, dude. What is your first reaction? Danny is in deliberation with one of his children right now, I have a feeling. You are muted. See, that silence spell screws you. I tell you not to play if in magic items, and you just keep on doing it. It's amazing shit. Go ahead.
So he looks to Shikoma and he's like, What do you advise? I sneak and stab shit. That's
Let me enjoy this for a minute. Hold on. Because you coaxed her out here. She wanted to be riding a dinosaur. You made her get on her bare feet. You cast spells around her, and now that everything has went to shit, you want to know what she advises. Let me think. Let me just take this in for a minute.
because
She
right now
looks
they're
panicked.
just chasing them.
Oh, nope, you've had your chance. Let me answer you. Danny McGuffey. As you ask her this, she has her spear and she kind of looks right and left. And mind you, she is not nearly as sarcastic as this guy right here. But it's just funny, And she goes, I suggest no more magic and run. She takes the spear and starts running behind the herd and following in their path. And she's running low. That's what I'm feeling right now.
And so I'm seeing this thing scoop up the herd though at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just picking them off, eating them.
No, you haven't seen it make contact yet. One of these creatures, 4 of these creatures would make that Vokelicon. Okay? But with the hit check that you rolled, that's about all you can sum up. I mean, this thing isn't a Titan, but it's a gargantuan, gargantuan sized creature. But these things aren't puppies. These things are huge. These creatures are big, man. So 2 people could ride one of these. These are about like 2 Belgian horses side by side. They look like big rocks out there. And I mean, if 4 or 5 of these wanted to square up and fight this thing, there might be a fight there. But they're plant eaters. They're just trying to survive. So, I mean, this thing gets its mouth bite into one. I mean, just imagine taking on a whole Eskimo pie and then wanting room for a second one. I mean,
Yeah, so is there starting to trot like he's with her? He's like, what if we could get that herd to turn back at it? Like if we stampeded it over it.
They're still running at it right now. So she's looking at you like, right? Because they're still running that direction. They don't give a shit. Oh, okay. So let's do this. When it yells, let me do a check. I don't want to bring that dice up again. Let me see how fearful this is. I want to see how many steer clear and how many keep going straight at it. And what you're suggesting is we work like shepherd dogs. We stay along the sides and make sure they stay corralled in the center. I get what you're saying. So let's see the effect of the roar. Jeremy, roll me a 1d20 and a 1d12 and tell me what your total is. Danny knows why I got it so high.
Side note, that thing has probably more hit points than 5d8, correct?
Yeah.
Damn it. Oh, wait, never mind. I was gonna say Hikash.
Well, listen, but our rules are a little bit different than D&D's. Okay? So what you're saying there now is you're asking me if this is a creature that has a level over 5.
The reason why I ask is I do have the spell Sleep. That's the only reason I ask, because if there's a way to knock it out, because I don't think the things are going to attack it, then we could dip, but I don't think it'll be affected by it.
So let's have some fun with that. And then I want to get back to this real quick, okay? So keep that roll on deck, Jeremy, okay? 1d20, 1d12. Reroll ones. Okay? How does the spell Sleep work as written? And let me see if it needs to be altered for our version of the game, because, I mean, creatures like this have ridiculous armor points and armor class breaches and shit like that, but they also have very small brains.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's talk.
So reading the spell verbatim, the spell sends creatures into magical slumber. Roll 5d8 is the total of how many hit points of creatures the spell can affect. Creatures within 20 feet of a point you choose within range are affected in ascending order of their hit points. Starting with the creature that has the lowest hit points, each creature is affected by the spell falls unconscious until the spell ends. If the sleeper takes damage or somebody else uses an action to shake or slap the sleeper awake, it wakes up and then subtract their hit points from the total before moving on to the next creature.
Okay, so
Undead creatures or undead and creatures immune to being charmed aren't affected by the spell.
Okay, so I don't want to debate this too much in this action-filled moment, but I will say this. Mm-hmm. The reason why I'm going to say Sleep won't work in this case is because I'm thinking about how powerful of a mind or will is trying to be put to sleep by this. Okay? And also how much they understand what the spell is doing to them. Are they coherent? Can things be lullabied? Can things be wooed with words? So there's a lot of things to factor here, right? I don't like spells that work on the hit die of a creature. I don't like power word kill, being able to kill something that has so many hit points, because it makes hit points a number in a way that I don't care to think of it. When it says 5d8 to me, usually monsters and shit have a d8 hit dice per every level. So I'm thinking in this situation it's talking about a 5th level or lower. Now, if it would have been one of the young ones and stuff like that, I would have gave this spell a shot, but unfortunately, I said that this was an older one. This was a mighty one of the group and shit. I would say if you would try it in this instance, it would not work.
Alrighty.
But 5th level and lower, And then when you cast that at higher levels, I will let that cap raise the better that you do.
Okay.
Okay? That's moving forward. But thank you. Jeremy, roll. What do you got?
26.
26? Okay. So, to not be frightened by this, it's going to be like a DC of... I mean, well, it's 26. And if these things are running, I'm going to roll some rolls real quick and just see how many 20s I get out of it. And every 20 is one of these that isn't deterred and it's going straight. The rest of them, with that roar coming out of there at 26, these things are parting like Moses is in front of them, Danny. Okay? So if me and you's herding, it's going to be a hell of a caper. And that's all just told by the dice, right? So let's have some fun with it. Jeremy, roll me 10 d20s. Bella, roll me 10 d20s. Colby, roll me 10 d20s. Every 20 you get, let me know. And that'll be all 30 of them. Just roll them up. Look for 20s. If you get one, hold up a finger. Anyone? Anyone? Oh, he's got 2. Come on. We get 5 to stampede over top of this thing, Danny. We got a chance. 4. See, now here's the thing. Bella, 0 20s, and he has 4 out of 10. I'm just saying, sometimes heroes are real.
Unless one of them was a natural one, unless one was so stupid it runs straight into it.
Did you have a natural one? Okay,
One of
Colby,
them
what'd
was
you
a
get?
natural one.
You got a 1. So Jeremy, you had 3. Colby, how many did you get?
1.
1. That's 4. And Bella rolled a natural 1. So 1 just went right? It didn't know what to do. Pretty much shit itself. Danny, watch out for that while you're running, okay? It just went dino poo. So
Good thing Valderas went face first back there.
yeah, you know, and I'm saying, just so you know, that's on your side, not Shakoma's side. That's on your side that happened. So I got to say it. So with that, how do we keep up with these creatures that are stampeding without something to ride on, Danny? And how do we keep them focused and keep them running? Already they're taking 4, and there's one in the middle that's just having convulsions, okay? What's your idea? Shakoma gets what you're saying about keeping them in the center. Put it in quick words for me. Just role play that out real quick.
He's like, just run him over the fucking top of it.
She nods.
And when he looks back to see where, because he should be high up out of the grass. Where's Kill Tusk?
If you do, it's going to make it harder because you need to get your ass moving if you're going to corral these. So if you want to go back and look.
He looks to her. Do you have a horn like him? Make the monster sound. Make them think.
Okay, cool. Yes, she does. Good job. All right. I'm going to go ahead and perform that. She does have those. We actually talked about that in episodes prior. Good. Oh, Mr. McGuffey. Inspiration for you. Oh, I'm sorry. It cancels out because of the bad idea for coming out here with the show. So it cancels out, but no, it was good. It was a good try.
Oh, well,
You can have inspiration. That was pretty awesome, actually. Okay.
In the grand scheme of things, if we hadn't started the Stampede, that thing would have been up there waiting for us.
Save the Stampede, save the world. Here we go. Okay, not a bad start. 22. I am going to make it sound. Shakoma is going to pull out her monster call, and she's going to try to make it sound like there is a younger one coming from the woodline on this side. What are you doing on your side? Kill Tusk, you hear her call that out. I'll give you a second to think about what you want to do in response to this. Jeremy, you hear the monster calls going off.
On my side, bonus action sprint, and then I'm going to cast darkness on one of my daggers so it stays with me. So it looks like that scary blob that they were running from is chasing them now.
Okay.
What else is it going to do?
I don't know. It's your character.
What are the odds that Brahmas is anywhere close to 30 foot away from Shikoma?
I think that.
Well, that's nothing, Clark. He's just yakking up a bone. You know what I'm talking about? I heard your dog just now, and that reminds me to underneath of the I'm sorry, I just had to say it. He's just yakking up a bone. He'll be done. So, I don't think there is a chance that you're 30 foot away from Shikoma at the way you guys took off when they were already in the shit. Because remember, they were like a mile out there, Jeremy. So no, I can't do that, sir. Unless there's some kind of spell you want to do that has a long range on it or something. Or sound. Or something. I mean, whatever you want to do.
My original thought was thaumaturgy on Shikoma's horn. But I realized it's got to be on me.
Okay. Having said that, Danny, so your thing, you want to cast the darkness. How far up? What's the distance on it? You can do this.
He's casting it on one of his daggers, one of his old metal daggers, so that he's basically a running globe of darkness now.
And how many feet can you get going in a dash?
Well, that would be 90 feet.
Okay. I'm going to roll something real quick. This is going to gauge how far the herd's getting because they were already running and they already dodged all us and they were past us. And you're having a second, you're jumping up looking, say this, run this, do this, and then you're going. Even at full tilt at 90 foot, it's going to be hard to even get caught up to like the back row or two of these. That's just being honest. You understand that? Okay. I'm going to roll a dex check for some of those in the back row.
I watched Lord of the Rings, and elves are so fast they can run on top of snow.
I've heard that, but that's a movie, Danny, and this is reality. So we have to...
This is the real world.
We have to be based in something, okay? There's oxygen here. We're breathing. This is happening. Okay, so let me see here. The only reason I'm rolling this dexterity check is because there's one goofy, fucked up one of these in the middle that has shat itself and is just like making the two back rows of the herd just be like, and it kind of held them up. That's the only reason why I'm letting this happen. All right, I have a DC. Roll me a dexterity, athletics, or it had to be it's about running. So whatever it is for your free walking and stuff, and tell me what you get.
All right, that's good because he uses free running. So that would be a 35.
You're able to catch at least 10 out of the back row.
No,
you can get up alongside them.
That is wrong. I did that wrong. That is a... Why in the world did I think
If it's
that?
higher, you win D&D. You just win.
No, it's 29. I misadded.
29. Okay. Don't look so disappointed with the 29. It literally is almost like you're being condescending to people watching from home. Danny didn't mean it. He didn't. 29s are okay for everybody else except for Danny and the company, okay?
Oh, I was disappointed because I was that far off the bat.
Love it.
I was like, holy crap.
No, it's the best. I'm loving this episode. I'm loving this. All right.
In all reality, though, in the world of D&D, is there much of a difference between a 29 and a 35?
In my mind, yes. In my mind, there absolutely is. Yes. Yeah. I mean, you have a keg stand, then you have a 30-plus keg stand. It's impressive. That's something you remember at a wedding, okay? That's all I'm saying. So, moving forward, the back two rows of this you would have been able to get up along the side of, and put this globe of darkness in. Of those 10, Danny, 8 of them are deterred and stay in towards the center, whereas 2 of them are not and run back through the side of the darkness. So 8 plus the 4 that we had earlier is 13 of these, which is damn near half of the mass of them doing this, and they're running up there. Oh, I didn't add in what Shakoma did. Let me see how that affects. With her side of things, I'll give her a chance at 8 of them. She would be able to deter 4 more in there. So that's going to be 15. So that's 18. So we are able to keep in control 18 of the 30. And they are going to run and stampede straight towards this aging yet fearsome Vokilikon. Okay? And before we end tonight's episode, do you guys want to hold this off for next time, or do you want to see how this one little piece here goes down?
Oh, I want to see this thing put up the little help sign.
Okay. So.
Bass gets a cowboy hat after this.
Does he? Okay. I'm going to stop the music for just a second. I want to think about this. Okay. So. 18 of these things. Low, armored, spiky things along their edges, on their heads, big bone tails. Hightailing it up through the center of this. It roared at him. It's coming running low with its mouth open. Expecting them to divide so it can take the stragglers and shit like that. We're herding them in on the sides. These things are just running for their lives. But they do attack. They can fight. They have those tails. So I'm trying to decide dice-wise. Because I have an idea what I want to have happen in my head here. But I got to make sure. Because there's a chance this, I don't know, right? So, I'm going to say, I'm going to give the T-Rex a number. As far as to how many of these. I mean, if it just bit into one of these things in that scoop motion, that's all it's going to be able to get in its mouth. And when it does, let me roll an attack roll for the creature and see how that is versus the damage of one of these sumbitches stampeding right for its mouth and make sure it doesn't break its jaw. I mean, I just got to be honest here, right? I'm trying to think about this in a movie scene. Jeremy, if you have something to add to this, talk to me about it. And don't just play devil's advocate. I mean, be fair about this.
Yeah, I mean, even
okay.
this thing being as big as it is, realistically, it have to only be able to get one.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
4 of these things make up one.
Well,
yeah.
This is kind of like an excavator trying to catch a truck that's running 30 miles an hour. It could easily pick up a truck, but now you make the truck run 30 miles an hour and you grab it.
Yeah. And I've got to be clever enough, too, to understand and say, they've hunted these things for years. This is a wise one. It may not do something and know it's going to fuck itself up, right? But I'm seeing this approach.
Plus, it's just really hungry and really willing to take the risk.
So here's my attack roll. 1d20 plus 14. Okay? For the Vokilikon to put the bite on the first one. That's got it bad. That's an awesome one. So this thing comes down, and as he crunches onto it, he kind of turns his head sideways and gets up underneath it. Wham! When he does, the head flies sideways like this. I'm going to say, with that movement, it knocks 3 more off to the side. With its head swipe on these things that's charging at it. So it took 1 out in the bite, and 3 more out that's 4. So we had, 18 altogether? Was that how many were still charging? Okay, so now we have 14, and his mouth is full, right? So, as that happens, now let me have him do a dexterity check to see if he's able to. I'm going to have him do another head swipe the other way with an attack roll to see if he's able to knock another section of him out. I'll give him, if he's able to do this, I'm going to give him 2 more. Is that a 16? Yeah. Okay. That's 4 more that he's able to knock Cantor and knock off with his head off to the side, and they just throw and it rolls him, right? But he's taking damage from these hits too. And you can see the scales starting to become dislodged and shit up in the headspace of this. Goodness, what's the... Let me see here. Now let's go ahead and have him do a dex to see if these things are able to hit him along the legs, the remainder of them, to see if it's able to knock him down. And then we'll see how many's left to trample. Is that fair? So we've got rid of 4, we've got rid of 8, we got 10 more to go through. Okay. With 10 of these things running at him, I need to make a DC. I want to go a base of 10 plus a 1d10 maybe. 1 for each one. Where's my 10 at? Right here? Yeah. Let's see what this does. 1. I can't imagine that being right. 11. Let's see what this dex check does. Okay. So dexterity for this creature is a 1d10 to 1d6. Let's roll it and see what we get. So it's I think it's kick sideways. That's why it's red like that. So we know we got a 6 on this. Let's re-roll the 20. That's a 10, isn't it? Is that an 8 or a 10? Can you tell?
I'm not sure.
I think that's a 10.
Okay. So it's 16. Let me see what my DC is here real quick.
Right? Because the 8's at like an angle.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's the 10. Okay. So with a 16, that would take it. That would beat the initial DC, but it wouldn't clobber it. So it's still going to take half of that. So it's going to be 5 of these things running into the feet of the creature to knock it on its ass. Okay. So here's the story the dice tell. As they all come stampeding toward it, the creature shovels its head down low, and you can see the thing close its eyes as its back rears up, and you can see the fins and the feathers kind of stand up around its neck mantle. As its mouth opens up, and you can just hear the deep breath it takes in first before it does this, it bites down hard on the first one, stumping it into the ground as mud and earth and high grass fly up around the thing like a boulder was just chucked into the soil. Okay? As it does that, it takes its head sideways and swings this way. You can see the helpless feet of this thing just waving in the air as if they're dead limbs as the teeth go through the shell and are crunching down on this. You can actually hear the sound of this dinosaur kind of like moo, kind of like a injured cow as it's yelling in down the throat of this creature, and you can hear it reverberating from an enclosed space. It's quite sad. It knocks off 3 onto their side as the head shovels this way. The head kicks back again as it adjusts and gets another bite, like an alligator does when it's trying to get something to go down. It turns its head sideways, using this creature in its mouth as almost like a shovel-like weapon, and swings its head back the other way, knocking several more over. As it is doing that, and it goes up and it starts to lose its bite on it, a stampede of at least 10 more of these left come into the legs. And although it's able to get up and stand on a couple, the DCs don't add up, and they start to go in through the legs and hit it. The creature falls down on its side. How many are left? Are 5 of these, and they are going to stampede over top of the creature. Okay? I want to actually see if there's 5 left. Roll me a d20, Danny, and each time you roll a 19 or 20, one of these 5 is going to stay back and attack this thing because it's got one of theirs in its mouth crying for help.
All right, I got 5.
Every 19 or 20. None?
No.
No. Okay.
I
They're
still
all
got
just
18.
they're all just stampeding for their lives. So, Jeremy, why don't you roll me some damage? Okay. These are all going to be plus 10 just from the size and strength of them. But they're also going to be, as far as damage, 2d8 for like a large thing. And what I want you to do is there's
I was gonna
5 of them
say,
there, right?
If you need a reference point, it's 2d6 for a warhorse for a trampling charge with hooves.
This would be worse than that. So this is going to be, let's just give this a 2d8. Okay. And plus 10. Roll up those 5 damages. Okay. Bella, I need you to make me 5 attack rolls. These are going to be 1d20 plus 12 each, and tell me what you get on each one.
1d20 plus 12 each, and I rolled that how many times?
5 times. Tell me what your total is each time.
Okay.
You're rolling for these things to be able to successfully hit into the legs of this creature and knock it over.
There's 18,
Okay.
15,
Okay.
18 again,
Okay.
17,
Okay.
18 again.
Okay, that's 5. Okay, so 4 out of the 5 hit once this thing had fallen over. So give me 4 of those damages, Jeremy.
That is 20, 21, 21, and 21.
So 82 points of damage, right? Okay.
83.
83 points of damage to the creature being trampled.
Not counting damage it took from getting smacked in the face and
Yeah, I know.
one's bludgeoning its kneecaps.
I know. Okay, I've got a DC in my head. The last rolls of the night. Colby, you're going to be deciding if this thing got knocked out or not. Because we're totaled at right under 100 damage. Okay, and this thing has a lot more hit points than that, but also has been trampled and things of that nature. I'm going to be rolling for a stun practically on this creature. I have a DC. I need you to roll me a 1d20 and a 1d6. And the higher you get for this creature, the better it's going to survive this.
Oh, so you won't roll low numbers. Got it.
You may want the low numbers. Brian wants the high numbers.
Yeah, you're picking me because I get low numbers.
Maybe.
For some reason, I just keep picturing and freeze frame, and then cut over to Darius making all the traps during all this.
Right? Yeah.
Cut back.
Yeah. I know. Much more civil times on over there. Yeah, definitely. What'd you get, bud?
A soft 20.
Yeah, he did pretty good. So what that means is when we come back next week, we have something to deal with. And here's Dark. Yeah.
Says who interrupted my peace pipe time?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, with that, unless anyone has any objections, I'm going to stop there. And that was pretty amazing. That was pretty exciting. That was nice. And they did the work, the hurting, the hitting it, the Valdera and Celine just busting their ass, and the crazy one losing its stuff and desecrating all over the battlefield. Interesting stuff, but we have to deal with a injured Elder Vokili Khan when we get back, and time is growing short to get there under the cover of night still at this point, which can be done. I mean, think about it. This has only been minutes here that we've been dealing with this shit. So, yeah. So, does anyone else have any closing things to say before I end tonight? Okay. Once again, I'm Brian Kynes. Thanks a lot for hanging out, everybody. Except for Corey. Corey was gone most of it. Let's be honest, but it's okay. We're not bitter. He was listening, and we'll talk to you next time, everyone. Have a good one.